He himself was not sure whether he would be beaten to death in the end. After all, he had never really fought against him. However, he was sure that with only the green spirit sword formation and his own strong defense, he would be able to rival the iron-backed barbarian bear, or even defeat it. But if he wanted to kill it, he might need a certain amount of luck. White Scale Lake, an island in the middle of the lake. A woman with a gentle aura was checking the situation in the spiritual field, pulling out some useless weeds from time to time, and using the spirit rain technique to irrigate the spiritual field from time to time. Behind her, there were 3 simple wooden houses, simple and ordinary in style, just like ordinary rural families. Originally, everything was peaceful and quiet, and there was no competition with the world. However, with a pop, a girl emerged from the water, holding a harpoon longer than a person, with a half-meter-long white-scaled perch inserted in her hand, and swaggered up from the shore. She looked indifferent, but her body was agile. Her hand holding the harpoon was extremely powerful, and her arms were covered with bright muscles. She could lift a white-scaled sea bass weighing dozens of kilograms effortlessly. Zhou Daoyu saw this scene and couldn't help stamping her feet in anger. "Oh, my little ancestor, why did you go fishing again? Look at you. You are covered in mud and you can't wash it clean in a while." Lin Chengxi shook her neat short hair, with a heroic face and calm and indifferent eyes. She ignored the scolding and threw the fish in her hand to the ground, saying stubbornly, "I was wrong, Sister Yu, don't be angry." Zhou Daoyu was furious and gritted her teeth and said, "You girl, you have always apologized actively, but you don't change your ways this time." Lin Chengxi's eyes were slightly erratic, but she still said firmly, "Next time I will definitely change that. The fish meat will be braised this time, and it will be given to a Shu, Dao Yuan, and Dao Wei to nourish their bodies. By the way, remember to give the fish head to a Shu. My brother is not smart, and he needs to be nourished more." Lin Chengxi looked proud, with his hands around his chest. While giving logical instructions, he was lifted up by Zhou Daoyu and taken to the lake to wash. At this time, a small boat floated on the lake, and a young man in a purple robe stood at the bow. "Hey, the 6th brother is here." Zhou Daoyu was a little surprised. She had been in Bailin Lake for more than a month, and this was the first time she saw Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daocheng looked at Zhou Daoyu with her sleeves and trouser legs rolled up, and Lin Chengxi who was covered in mud, and couldn't help raising his eyebrows. "Second sister, did Chengxi fall into the toilet?" Facing Zhou Daocheng, Lin Chengxi obviously didn't dare to be too presumptuous, but still put her hands on her waist, and the girl said maturely, "Brother Daocheng, do you want to stay and eat fish?" "I caught it." Zhou Daocheng's eyelids jumped, and he looked carefully at the girl covered in mud in front of him. He always felt that she had a bandit spirit, just like Meng Yushan at the beginning. When he saw the half-meter-long white-scaled perch on the shore, his face suddenly darkened. This is a first-grade top-grade white-scaled perch, which is expensive. Even Zhou Daocheng himself couldn't bear to eat it, but it was taken away by this girl. With his eyes narrowed, Zhou Daocheng's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. 2 seconds later, big brother, I don't dare anymore. Woo woo woo. Zhou Daocheng fried the meat on a bamboo board, and Lin Chengxi's proud face was tearful. Zhou Daoyu couldn't bear to watch it, so he hurriedly stopped him distressingly. Finding a chance to escape, Lin Chengxi hurriedly covered his butt and ran back to the house. 20 minutes later, on the table was a braised sea bass, a plate of stir-fried green lettuce, and a bowl of tofu and white jade radish soup. 6 people sat around the table. Under the intimidation of Zhou Daocheng, Dao Yuan, Dao Shou, Chongshu and the other 2 ate quietly. Lin Chengxi also kept silent, stuffing fish meat into his mouth while picking rice, with red eyes. Seeing this scene, Zhou Daoyu couldn't help but feel funny. These children were not so obedient when they were in front of him. As a result, when Zhou Daocheng came, they all wilted. Zhou Daocheng also asked about the 4 people's situation and got a simple understanding. Dao Yuan and Dao Shou, the 2 of them are not very talented, but they are devoted to cultivation, very hardworking, and have a strong character. Zhou Daocheng checked their strength and found that they have reached the first level of qi refining, which is considered to be officially entering the world of cultivation. It seems that they are not lazy. However, what is surprising is the strength of Lin Chengxi. When they met for the first time, she had not started to practice. When they met for the second time in Shenline Mountain, she had already broken through to the first level of qi refining. However, now, she has broken through to the second level of qi refining in just a few months, and her aura has stabilized and reached the late stage of the second level. It should take less than 1 or 2 months for her to break through to the third level of qi refining. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but sigh secretly that this girl's talent is indeed not low. She has 3 spiritual roots and her cultivation speed is very fast. And according to Zhou Daoyu, Lin Chengxi's daily training time is not long. She runs outside early in the morning, catches fish, grills shrimps, and kicks turtles. It can be said that she is evil-doing and decisive in killing. She has the attitude of a big sister at a young age. Among the 4, she is not only the most talented and the strongest, but also the most mature and courageous. She often brings some aquatic products rich in spiritual energy to warm the bodies of her younger brothers. Zhou Daoyu smiled and told the story. Although he complained on the surface, he still cherished these 4 children, especially Lin Chengxi, who caused trouble for him every day. However, Zhou Daocheng noticed one thing keenly, which made him look at Lin Chengxi carefully. Although the White Scale Lake only has one first-class middle-grade spiritual vein on the surface, it is actually a second-class spiritual spring, so the water monsters living in it are quite powerful. Even the docile white-scaled perch mostly have the strength of first-class middle-grade or even first-class upper-grade. Just flapping has considerable power, not to mention in the water. And Lin Chengxi can catch the first-class upper-grade white-scaled perch with only the strength of the second-level qi refining, plus a homemade harpoon. This kind of combat ability is much stronger than imagined. Zhou Daocheng was curious and asked, Chengxi, it shouldn't be easy for you to fork the fish, right? The little girl, who was still tearful just now, immediately put down the bowl in her hand and rolled up her sleeves to show her muscles. Brother, don't underestimate me. The white-scaled perch is just a toy in my palm and can't make any waves. Zhou Daocheng's mouth twitched, and he saw that Lin Chengxi's slender arms were clearly shaped with muscles. How could this be a girl of 7 or 8 years old? Do you like hunting monsters? Of course, fighting monsters is so interesting. It's too boring to stay at home and meditate every day. I don't know how Ashu and the others can stand it. Lin Chengxi sighed helplessly. He obviously couldn't understand his 3 younger brothers. They lived a monotonous life every day. They were either studying martial arts or meditating. It was really boring. Of course, in the eyes of Dao Yuan and the other 2, they were also confused about this elder sister. She didn't know how to practice all day, and kept going out to play. As a result, after a while, her strength was higher than the 3 of them. Zhou Daocheng nodded silently, and had some thoughts in his heart. Every cultivator has a different personality. Some are good at enduring loneliness and improve through day-to-day practice. Some people have a very high understanding, are good at understanding the skills, or study the skills of cultivating immortals. Zhou Daocheng and his students belong to this category. Some people are not good at learning, but they are quite talented in fighting, and can improve their experience and strength in fighting and fighting. Various different personalities have also created different paths in the world of cultivating immortals. Everyone has his own path, not all the same. Lin Chengxi, perhaps, belongs to the category of people who like fighting and have a very high fighting talent. Zhou Daocheng thought about it, but still did not jump to conclusion. Instead, he deliberately said seriously, Chengxi, you are too young and too weak. Now is the age for cultivation. You are not allowed to go fishing in the river in the future. You are only allowed to stay on the island for cultivation. Do you understand? After this, Lin Chengxi's face turned green, his little face was pale, and the fish in his mouth was no longer fragrant. He said with a sad face, Brother, I don't want it. I don't want to stay in the training room at all. I can't even last 10 minutes. The speed of improving strength is not as fast as when I play outside. Zhou Daocheng stared at her, and saw that her eyes were full of sincerity, without any false appearance, so he believed it a little in his heart. So he said, If I let you participate in hunting monsters, will you be obedient? Of course, I, Lin Chengxi, am the most obedient. Zhou Daoyu shook her head helplessly. This is definitely the funniest joke she has ever heard. Zhou Daocheng knew the importance of teaching students in accordance with their aptitude, so he said, Well, I will arrange an uncle for you in the future to accompany you to hunt monsters, but you must remember to be obedient and pay attention to safety. Ha ha ha, Brother Zhou, you are so nice. No problem, I will be obedient. Lin Chengxi's smile almost overflowed, and she ran out of the house. Seeing this scene, Zhou Daoyu couldn't help but worry. Daocheng, Chengxi is still young after all. If you arrange it like this, will it be? It doesn't matter, I will have someone take good care of him. Don't forget, I also tamed an iron-backed bear. As long as you don't go to too dangerous places, your safety is guaranteed. Hearing the 4 words, iron-backed bear, Zhou Daoyu was relieved. By the way, 6th brother, who do you think has a talent for formation among these children? Zhou Daocheng shook his head. I can't be sure, I have to try it. While talking, Zhou Daocheng took out 3 formation drawings, which were the simplest first-level lower-grade formation spirit-gathering formation. Zhou Daocheng handed it to Zhou Daoyuan and the other 2, saying, this is a blueprint of the formation. The formation pattern is organized and logical. I will give you an hour to draw the correct spiritual energy circulation route you think. The 3 of them have already started practicing, learned the skills, and know the basic spiritual energy circulation. If they have the talent for formation, they should be able to roughly see some of the order in the formation based on the known knowledge. You don't even need to see all of it, just a part of it. This is a common test method used by formation masters in the world of immortal cultivation, and it is very accurate. After getting the formation map, the 3 boys couldn't help but frown, staring at the complex patterns, and stood there for a long time without doing anything. Zhou Daoyu was also a little anxious, fearing that several people had no talent, and the family's idea of training formation masters would fail. After waiting anxiously for an hour, Zhou Daocheng collected the paper on time. Just a glance, Zhou Daocheng could roughly see the talents of the 3 people. Zhou Daoshou should be the one with the weakest talent in formations. Almost all of his routes are wrong, straightforward, without any flexibility. Zhou Daoyuan and Lin Chongshu performed well and had certain talents, but Zhou Daocheng was not sure how far they could go. Most of the initial teaching was based on trial. Zhou Daocheng copied the simplest and easiest to understand part of the formation inheritance to the 2 of them, and gave them a rough explanation. Both of them had only a vague understanding and silently recorded what Zhou Daocheng said. Zhou Daocheng did not force it. Immortal cultivation skills are not so easy to learn. For a long time to come, Zhou Daocheng needs to come and teach frequently. Bring Lin Changxi to the valley and hand him over to Meng Yushan, asking him to lead him to hunt monsters and teach him some knowledge. Meng Yushan looked at the half-meter-tall little cute baby and was at a loss for a while. He was so anxious that he scratched his head. Fortunately, Lin Yuan has a cheerful personality and can communicate with Lin Changxi, who is 7 or 8 years old, just right to take care of the child. By the way, Zhou Daocheng handed over the 2 formations he used, Golden Vine Formation and Splitting Gold Formation, to Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan, so that they could hunt monsters in the future. In this way, they had 2 sets of each formation. In the following period, Zhou Daocheng also resumed his quiet and peaceful cultivation life. Most of the time was spent on cultivation, and using the earth-attributed natural treasures he harvested, his strength increased a lot in a short period of time. At the same time, he continued to study formations, researching formations suitable for fusion formations, and occasionally arranged some low-quality formations when he had time. For example, in the caves of every member of the valley, a set of spirit-gathering formations was arranged to assist in cultivation. In the underground cave, a set of first-grade medium-quality thick earth formations was arranged, which could comprehend the earth-attributed spiritual energy, nourish the body at all times, and improve strength. In his spare time, he would go to teach the 3 children, teach them the difficulties in the process of cultivation, or the obscure content in the exercises. Zhou Daoyuan and Lin Chongshu would also learn the knowledge of formations. Their comprehension was not bad, but it was much worse than Zhou Daocheng himself, so their learning progress was very slow. Zhou Daocheng could only teach them the basic knowledge of formation skills bit by bit as much as possible in a small number of times. Among the 4 children, Lin Changxi made the greatest progress. Following Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan, he hunted monsters in the nearby mountains every day, eating flesh and blood rich in spiritual energy, and his strength improved rapidly. Moreover, Meng Yushan specially found Zhou Daocheng and said that Lin Changxi was simply a genius in combat, learning very quickly, and had all kinds of skills and experience at his fingertips. Moreover, he was ruthless and decisive in hunting monsters, and was not inferior to adults at all. In order to better fit the style of the hunting team, Meng Yushan also gave Lin Changxi a weapon, which was a huge axe that was 1.5 meters long and weighed more than 50 kilograms. Although the quality was not high, it was very powerful and could bring out all of Lin Changxi's strength. So often, Zhou Daocheng could see a strange picture, a little girl of 7 or 8 years old, carrying an axe taller than her, hunting monsters in the nearby mountains. On this day, Zhou Daocheng was cooking, but he received a letter from Shenline Mountain, delivered by his 12th uncle himself. When he opened the letter and saw the content, his face couldn't help but change slightly. Luanfang City. Foundation Establishment Pill. Zhou Daocheng murmured to himself, with a lot of thoughts in his mind. It seems that the family is bound to get this foundation building pill, but unfortunately the competition is too fierce. Even if it is successfully photographed in the end, it will be difficult to bring it back. Within the Qingshan sect, how many monks are eager for the foundation establishment pill? Whenever a foundation building pill appears, it will inevitably attract thousands of forces to snatch it, and every time it will cause a bloody storm, but countless people will continue to fight for it. The real difficulty is not accumulating spiritual stones, but how to safely return the purchased foundation establishment pills to the family and successfully take the breakthrough. I hope the master's plan will really work. Zhou Daocheng lowered his eyebrows and had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Deep Forest Mountain has begun all-round preparations for purchasing the foundation establishment pill. All the spirit stones are in place, and the people involved in the purchase have been determined. Clan leader Zhou Yonghan personally led the team, and the 4th elder Zhou Chengyan, the 6th elder Zhou Chengguang, the 7th elder Zhou Shorong, and 6 elders of the Chong generation went together, a total of 10 people. Logically speaking, the smaller the team size, the smaller the target and the easier it is to escape. But this approach is not suitable for bringing back the foundation establishment pill. If any force obtains the foundation establishment pill, it will be like a bright light bulb and become a high-profile existence. No matter how many people there are, they will definitely be under the surveillance of all forces. The fewer people there are, the more siege each person will receive, and the probability of escape will be smaller. So this time, a total of 10 people were prepared to go, and all of them had reached the late stage of qi refining stage. They were almost determined to go there, and they must bring back the foundation establishment pill. Precisely because this mission is extremely dangerous, when selecting personnel, young people were deliberately avoided, leaving the older generation to complete this cruel inheritance. A team of 10 people rushed to Luanfang City urgently, carrying a total of 70,000 low-grade spiritual stones. They were cautious along the way and kept a low profile. The auction in Luanfang City attracted a large number of families like the Zhou family who came to Luanfang City from all directions to buy foundation establishment pills for family inheritance. As a large-scale city, Luan City was already very large, densely populated, and had many strong people. Now it was completely full, with pedestrians coming and going. Zhou Yonghan didn't dare to be careless, so he randomly found a small inn and stayed in it. He lived in seclusion every day for the rest of the day. He waited until the auction started before leading the clan members to leave the inn and go to the auction. Compared with the auction in Baihifang City, the auction in Luanfang City has higher standards, and the grade has increased several times. The quality of the final auction items reached the 3rd level, and many Zifu monks participated. Zhou Yonghan and 10 people silently walked into a box. As the auction began, one after another extremely high-quality auction items appeared, at least 2nd-level low-quality items, which made people jealous. But Zhou Yonghan didn't do anything. He always closed his eyes and rested, silently waiting for his target to appear. It wasn't until more than half of the auction process was over that a voice echoed in the venue, and Zhou Yonghan slowly opened his eyes. The 66th auction item, 5 foundation establishment pills, everyone should be well aware of their prices. I will not introduce them in detail. The 5 pills are sold separately. The starting price of each pill is not less than 10,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Each bidding price no less than 1,000 spirit stones. Please start bidding. The entire venue was quiet for 3 seconds. Then the first quotation sounded, 30,000 spiritual stones. But the next moment, he was covered by the voices of other monks, 40,000 low-grade spiritual stones. HMPH, 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones. I offer 55,000 spiritual stones. In just a few quotes, the price directly exceeded the market price of 50,000 spirit stones for the foundation establishment pill. Other auction items may be missed and may be sold at a price lower than the market price, but it is absolutely impossible for the foundation establishment pill. For all qi refining families and foundation building families, the foundation building period has been their pursuit for decades or hundreds of years. It was like this before, and it will be like this in the future. Condensing qi to build the foundation is a path that all monks can never avoid. In the end, after fierce bidding, the value was fixed at 67,000 low-grade spiritual stones, and it was acquired by a powerful sect, Liyuan sect. The second foundation establishment pill followed closely. Zhou Yonghan finally joined the competition, and his hoarse voice came out of the private room, 60,000 low-grade spiritual stones. He knew very well that the price of the Foundation establishment pill would never stop at 50,000 spirit stones, so he simply skipped the previous process and directly increased the price to 60,000, trying to overwhelm his competitors with his momentum. However, those who can participate in the auction are not ordinary people, so no one will be intimidated, and after all, strength speaks for itself at the auction. Another voice sounded faintly. 61,000 low-grade spiritual stones. When he heard this voice, Zhou Yonghan raised his eyebrows slightly, with a hint of inaudible anger in his eyes. He looked deeply towards the direction of the voice, and his whole body was filled with faint waves. The owner of this voice was so familiar to him that he would never forget it until his death. It is none other than Chen Jiaonian of the Chen family. Although there has always been friction between the Zhou family and the Chen family, it cannot be called hatred. It can only be said to be a minor conflict. However, after the incident in Timushan, the two sides will completely fight to the death. The Zhou family must take revenge and make the Chen family pay for their blood debt. The Chen family also hopes to eradicate the root cause and completely wipe out the Zhou family. On the side, the faces of other elders were also extremely ugly. Most of the reason why the family has reached this stage is due to the Chen family. Zhou Chengyan gritted his teeth and said in a muffled voice, "Patriarch, it's the old beast of the Chen family." Zhou Yonghan retracted his gaze, and his anger and hostility had subsided. He said lightly, "Don't forget each other's purpose." Then he quoted again, 63,000 low-grade spirit stones. 64,000. 65,000. When the price reached 65,000 spirit stones, the voices of quotations gradually decreased. This has reached the bottleneck of the foundation building pill. If it goes up, it will be seriously overpriced. In the end, Zhou Yonghan decisively took action and successfully took the foundation building pill into his pocket at a price of 68,000. The Zhou family had no room for bargaining. This foundation building pill must be obtained, no matter how expensive it is. After successfully bidding, Zhou Yonghan breathed a sigh of relief, but he knew in his heart that things were not over yet. On the contrary, everything has just begun. Let's go. While there are still few people, leave as soon as possible. Without any hesitation, Zhou Yonghan quickly completed the transaction and left the auction with the foundation building pill. Although they had tried their best to conceal their whereabouts, many forces were still staring at them. After noticing the movement, they began to act silently. With a serious look in their eyes, they, led by Zhou Yonghan, flashed through several streets in Luan Market, trying to get rid of those who might be following them, and then found an exit with few people to leave. In Luan Market, after all, there were Purple Mansion cultivators in charge, and ordinary forces did not dare to act rashly. But once they left the market, it was like the sea was wide for fish to leap, and the sky was high for birds to fly. When the 10 people left the market and were about 5 or 6 kilometers away, Zhou Yonghan's face changed slightly, and then he slapped the jungle in front of him. In an instant, a huge hole was blasted out on the ground, and then he shouted angrily, "Run separately and take the things back to the family." "HMPH, can you run away?" A cold snort came, making everyone's face change drastically. Although I had been prepared for it long ago, I didn't expect that the first person to appear would be the foundation building expert. Not daring to hesitate, the 3 elders of the 9th level of Qi refining, each with 2 tribesmen, ran wildly in 3 different directions. In their hands, they all held a wooden box, which was the wooden box where the foundation establishment pill was stored. The visitor's eyes were calm and he sneered disdainfully, "Mysterious." As the Zhou family's team dispersed, several groups of people once again appeared in the jungle behind them, chasing them in 3 directions. What followed was not just one force, but dozens of forces, large and small. There were 3 foundation building experts alone, including Chen Jiaonian, the head of the Chen family. Zhou Yonghan looked ugly. He obviously didn't expect that there would be so many people. Even in his heyday, it was impossible to match them, let alone his half-disabled body now. "Chen Jiaonian, we have had intersections in the early years, but the 2 families have no big hatred. As for killing my Zhou family?" Zhou Yonghan asked, staring at Chen Jiaonian with a lowered gaze. "Now that we've done it, there's no way back." Chen Jiaonian's eyes were calm and he answered calmly. He unsheathed the golden spear in his hand decisively, and his fierce momentum spread instantly. The other 2 strong foundation builders were complete strangers, and they showed no mercy and immediately sacrificed their magic weapons. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yonghan's tongue turned ugly, and his pale face looked even more gray. Zhou Yonghan, with your current body, how long can you last? Ha ha ha, no matter how long it takes, you will never get the Foundation establishment pill today. HMPH, I'll kill you first, and then the other Zhou family monks. Sooner or later, the Foundation establishment pill will be mine. In the face of absolute interests, there was no room for negotiation. The three Foundation building experts took action without hesitation, trying to kill Zhou Yonghan quickly. The Zhou family monks who had scattered and fled were in an equally critical situation. Although there is no strong foundation builder, the people behind him are not weak in strength. Those who can participate in the pursuit are at least at the 8th and 9th levels of qi refining, and their strength is comparable to that of the Zhou family members. 7th Elder Zhou Shorong looked at the pursuers behind him. There were 6 9th level qi refining experts, and even a qi refining Zochan. The chasing speed was extremely terrifying, and they had already closed in on the three of them in a short period of time. Trouble. Knowing that the situation was critical, Zhou Shorong's eyes flashed with a trace of violence. He thrust the wooden box in his hand to the two clan elders and said coldly, "There is a narrow valley ahead. I will stop them. You must bring the things back to the clan. Shorong, you. No need to say more, trust me. Bring back the Foundation establishment pill and let the Zhou family start over." When the two elders from the Chong clan heard this, they trembled all over, stopped talking, and tried their best. Run forward. HMPH, I advise you to hand over your things. Maybe I can leave you a way to survive. A cold voice came from behind. Wishful thinking. When the two elders of the Chong clan rushed into a narrow valley, Zhou Shorong suddenly stopped, his eyes full of determination. He pinched the magic formula in his hand, and the violent spiritual energy continuously attacked the mountains on both sides. Suddenly, a large amount of gravel slid down, blocking the road behind. But the two chasing men in black robes were fearless and rushed forward quickly. With a terrifying momentum, they slapped Zhou Shorong on the chest with a palm. The pupils contracted and blood spurted out. But even so, Zhou Shorong still did not give way. After withstanding the attacks of the two, he slapped two palms with all his strength, almost using up all his strength, and hit the two of them firmly on the chest. The next moment, two black shadows flew backwards for dozens of meters and hit the rocks behind them, causing serious injuries. Thank you two brothers for blocking the palm, otherwise we wouldn't have dared to deal with it so easily when a 9th level qi refining expert counterattacked on the verge of death. The pursuers at the rear sneered and rushed forward again, surrounding Zhou Shorong, who was at the end of his strength. Zhou Shorong covered his chest and retreated step by step, attacking the mountains on both sides again, trying to completely block the road. However, the situation did not turn out as he wished. Just the next moment, a white cold light streaked across his neck, soaked in blood, and his life flowed away like a flood. Keep chasing. The cold voice came from nowhere, making everyone present shudder. Foundation building. Mater, are there any strong foundation builders? Many people looked around fiercely, trying to find the hidden strong man, but there was no trace. They couldn't help but look gloomy, hesitating whether to continue chasing. Some people laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, Patriarch, you are finally here. The Foundation establishment pill must be in our pocket. Zhou Shorong tried to stop him with his life, but he only bought half a cup of tea. In front of a strong foundation builder, his life is as thin as a piece of white paper, and it will be riddled with holes if he pokes at it casually. A few kilometers away, two elders from the Chong clan were running wildly, sweating profusely. Chong Li, ours is a true foundation building pill. It must not fall into the hands of others. They should catch up soon. I will stop them then. Okay, I will fight to the death to bring the Foundation establishment pill back. PFF'd. The silk thread crossed the neck and penetrated the bones, muscles and blood vessels. The running body suddenly fell to the ground, and his eyes gradually became blurred. The box containing the Foundation establishment pill arced through the air and landed in the hands of the person in front. Take it back. Did I ask you to take it back? A cold voice sounded, and another strong foundation building expert appeared. But as the box was opened, a roar came out. Damn it, where's the Foundation establishment pill? The two elders of the Chong clan, who fell to the ground and were about to die, looked at the empty box with slightly blurred vision, and couldn't help but shrink their pupils. The Foundation establishment pill isn't here, how is it possible? But it's so good. Bang, bang. He stepped on his head angrily, like a watermelon being burst open, and his life disappeared in an instant. You bastard, it's not a pity to die. At the last moment, they could clearly feel that this was a strong foundation builder. As early as on their way to escape, other foundation building experts had been ambushed. From the beginning to the end, there was no possibility for them to return to their family. The other two fleeing teams encountered the same situation. Faced with the pursuit and interception of a large number of strong men, even if they sacrifice their lives and try their best, there is no room for struggle. In the end, only the cold body and the empty box were left, casually thrown on the ground. Chen Jiaonian pulled out the spear that pierced his body, casually shook off the blood on it, and looked coldly at Zhou Yonghan on the ground. Clan leader Zhou, all 3 teams and 9 members of the Zhou family have been killed. The foundation establishment pill is not on them. If I guess correctly, they are still with you, right? A large amount of blood spilled from the corner of Zhou Yonghan's mouth, and he could no longer speak. He just stared at the person in front of him. A large part of the reason why the Zhou family is where it is today is due to this person. The Zhou family was completely fearless when dealing with the Ma family alone, but the Chen family broke this balance and crushed the entire Zhou family. Chen Jiaonian looked indifferent, leaned over and groped around his chest, and found a delicate box entirely carved from jade. He couldn't help but look happy on his face. This foundation building pill belongs to my Chen family. My Zhou family will fight you until death. And we will never end. Holding on to the large amount of blood gushing out, Zhou Yonghan tried his best to speak, staring with evil eyes. Will you fight to the death? Just because of the current Zhou family? Chen Jiaonian smiled lightly and opened the box with trembling fingers. The next moment, the smile on his face quickly stiffened. Then a roar roared. Asshole, the foundation establishment pill is not on you. In the exquisite box, there was indeed a pill, but it was a first-grade low-grade qi nourishing pill. Chen Jiaonian's eyes were full of hostility, and his aura was fluctuating. He glared at Zhou Yonghan under his feet, and laughed in anger, saying 3 times, good. Good, good, your Zhou family is really capable, and actually stole the sky and changed the day in public. Ahem, hee, how can my Zhou family's things be so easy to snatch? This foundation building pill will definitely become the seed of the destruction of your Chen family and the Ma family. Zhou Yonghan's voice was hoarse, his breath was weak, and he looked at Chen Jiaonian with a faint smile, and he was already close to death. Destroy my Chen family. Chen Jiaonian snorted coldly. His eyes were full of indifference, and his voice was cold. Before that, I, Chen Jiaonian, will find the remnants of your Zhou family and completely exterminate you. As soon as the voice fell, clang. The spear nailed down, making a light sound, passing through the center of the throat. The last member of the Yang generation of the Zhou family in Tianqi Mountain ended his life, and the era of the Yang generation ended. Chen Jiaonian's eyes were gloomy, and Zhou Yonghan's last words also made him feel a little depressed. He couldn't help but recall the 2 teenagers he met in Tiamu Mountain. They were only in their 20s and had already reached the 9th level of qi refining, and they even escaped from the hunting of the foundation building masters. Such strength made him feel flustered. If this generation of Zhou family descendants were allowed to grow up, he knew very well that it would be a very troublesome thing. The Zhou family must not be allowed to recuperate, and must be rooted out, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Pulling out the spear and shaking off the blood, Chen Jiaonian's thoughts were suppressed, and his mind was constantly churning. Recalling every detail from the auction venue, he tried to find the time when the Zhou family might transfer the foundation building pill. Unfortunately, in his memory, every detail of the Zhou family was under surveillance, and there was no possibility of secretly doing anything. But this foundation building pill just disappeared like that. A pile of rocks in a canyon. 2 black-robed figures crawled out, wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths calmly, and revealed a young face. Brother, where is the thing? It's with me. Okay, let's go back to Shenline Mountain. The 2 quickly sank into the vast forest and disappeared completely after a few breaths. This action was never participated by 10 people, but 12 people. Zhou Daobai and Zhou Daocheng hid in the dark, and as pursuers, they successfully completed the handover of the foundation building pill with the 7th elder Zhou Shorong. This matter was arranged very secretly, and no one else knew about it except the clan leader Zhou Yonghan and the 7th elder Zhou Shorong. Even before the death of the 2 Chong generation clan elders, they firmly believed that the box in their hands contained the real foundation building pill. But in fact, the foundation building pill had already escaped the center of the competition when no one noticed it. Half a month later, Zhou Daobai and Zhou Daocheng handed the blood-stained foundation building pill to the head of the family, Zhou Chengyi. Zhou Chengyi's hands couldn't stop shaking, and he carefully opened the box. A round and plump pill with a faint purple aura and golden lines on the surface appeared in front of him. His pupils couldn't stop trembling slightly, and Zhou Chengyi's strength seemed to be drained. He sat down on the stone chair with a pop. Grandpa. Zhou Daocheng hurriedly got up and wanted to help, but was stopped by Zhou Chengyi. It's okay, how are the clan leaders? Zhou Daocheng and Zhou Daobai looked at each other, shook their heads silently, and said, I don't know, we will leave directly after getting the foundation building pill. Zhou Chengyi smiled bitterly, his heart was like a mirror. What will be the final result? How many people will die for this foundation building pill? Can the clan leader survive? The answer to all this was destined at the beginning of the plan, but when he really faced the result, he still hoped for a glimmer of hope. The clan leader in the foundation building period, plus 3 9th level Qi refining elders, in exchange for a foundation building pill. This is already the best result. For a long time, Zhou Chengyi sat alone in the dark cave, staring at the foundation building pill. There was desire, resentment, and struggle. The messy thoughts intertwined together and finally merged into a long sigh. The Zhou family in Tianqi Mountain has come to this point in just half a year. There are only 2 9th level Qi refining strongmen left. As the head of the family, Zhou Chengyi has mixed feelings. Who should I give this foundation building pill to, Daobai, or Daocheng? Zhou Chengyi spent almost the whole night thinking about this question, but he didn't get an answer for a long time. Zhou Daobai has a higher talent, and is the eldest brother of the Dao generation. He has a calm and introverted personality, but he also has a shrewd and sharp edge. Whether as the head of the family or as the new clan leader, he is the most suitable candidate. Zhou Daocheng, on the other hand, was deep-minded and difficult to fathom, had many secrets, and was a rare formation master, so he was also full of infinite possibilities. And no matter which one he chose, he had to consider the other person's thoughts. Until the next morning, a message reached Zhou Chengyi's ears. Master, Daocheng returned to Balin Lake overnight yesterday, and asked me to bring you a message. What? He will go on his own path to build his foundation. Zhou Chengyi's eyes trembled, and he couldn't help but smile bitterly. This once inconspicuous grandson was more thoughtful than he had imagined. To give in such a decision is not only to give dignity to the dilapidated family, but also to give absolute confidence in oneself. Zhou Daocheng returned to Balin Ancient overnight. On the one hand, he really did not want to compete with his eldest brother for the foundation establishment pill. On the other hand, he had no intention of becoming the head of the Zhou family. The eldest brother Zhou Daobai is calm and thoughtful, while the fourth brother Zhou Daoqi is smooth and Philistine. They are very suitable to serve as the patriarch and head of the family respectively. As for Zhou Daocheng, it would be better for him to stay in Balin Lake in peace and contentment, hiding in the dark and growing secretly. Besides, with a large number of trump cards, he might not be able to buy a foundation building pill by himself, and it wouldn't even take him long to collect enough spirit stones. Especially in the future, there is also a huge business plan being perfected. Once the cooperation with the Spirit Snake sect can be truly realized, the benefits will be extremely huge, and even the identity, status and strength will also increase. It's just that the Spirit Snake sect is still making preparations, busy acquiring stores and looking for suitable partners. It seems that we can talk to the Spirit Snake sect in the near future. My Zhou family will be responsible for refining weapons, and for elixir refining, we can talk to the Zhu family. The threats from the Chen family and Ma family are too great, and we must move faster. Zhou Daocheng thought secretly in his heart and had already made a decision. He also believes that a business alliance with the 5 immortal cultivation skills of alchemy, weapon refining, talismans, formations, and beast control as its core must have extremely high potential. I just hope everything develops as expected. On the third day of returning to Balin Lake, Zhou Daocheng was about to take the initiative to talk to the Spirit Snake sect, but he didn't expect the other party to come to him. Sir, my clan leader sent me here to discuss 2 things. Tell me, Han Yi said respectfully. On the one hand, regarding the cooperation discussed before, the Spirit Snake clan has found a force that is proficient in talismans and is willing to cooperate, but regarding refining weapons and alchemy, I wonder if the Shanhai clan has any relationship in this regard. Zhou Daocheng nodded secretly in his heart. This matter just fits his idea. If the qualification of the weapon refining force can be given to the family, it would be the best. As for the alchemy family, if they can reach an agreement with the Zhu family of Danyu Mountain, it is always more suitable than an unknown force. No problem, we will trade with the alchemy and weapon refining forces. Zhou Daocheng agreed directly, and then asked, I wonder what the second thing is. Hearing the question, Han Yi's face showed sorrow, and his expression was a little heavy. He said, Young master, do you know that there is a powerful second-level spirit insect colony in the nearby area? Zhou Daocheng's mind moved, and he said, soul-devouring ant colony. Han Yi's eyes lit up, and he was a little surprised. I didn't expect that you also knew about it. But after thinking about it, he was relieved. Shanhai sect is not weak, so it is impossible for them to be completely unaware of the surrounding situation. We do know something, but when we found it, it was only a first-level ant colony. But judging from the recent scale, it should have developed into a second-level ant colony, right? Zhou Daocheng said lightly. Han Yi nodded heavily and said, what you said is right, young master. Especially in recent times, the scale of the soul-devouring ants has been expanding and has invaded the mine station many times, which has made people miserable. So what is Elder Han's plan? Speaking of business, Han Yi said seriously, I have reported this matter to the sect master. According to the sect master's intention, he wants to destroy this ant colony or subdue it. Destroy, subdue. Zhou Daocheng was secretly shocked and couldn't help but sigh that the spirit snake sect was very courageous. Facing the second-level soul-devouring ants, ordinary foundation-building cultivators dare not face it head-on, and most of them will choose to avoid it. But unexpectedly, the spirit snake sect actually planned to subdue it, which shows that it has absolute confidence in its own means. While thinking, Han Yi immediately said, if we can subdue the soul-devouring ant queen, the benefits will naturally be maximized. However, it is too difficult to accomplish this task with the means of our soul snake sect alone. Perhaps we need the help of the Shanhai sect's formation. Zhou Daocheng's heart trembled, and he immediately understood the idea of the soul snake sect. Even for the soul snake sect, which is proficient in beast control, it is still very difficult to deal with a second-level soul-devouring ant colony, so they will seek the help of the Shanhai sect's formation. However, Zhou Daocheng did not agree directly, and this matter did not benefit him at all. On the one hand, the soul-devouring ant colony is indeed very dangerous and may bring trouble to himself. Secondly, even if the soul-devouring ant colony is successfully subdued in the end, he can only allocate some soul honey and resources at most. The input and benefits are seriously inconsistent, and the soul snake sect will get the benefits for nothing. After pondering for a moment, Zhou Daocheng still replied, Elder Han, there is no need to be modest. Subduing spirit beasts is the strength of the spirit snake sect, and the Shanhai sect will not get involved. Hearing this, Han Yi did not give up. He was naturally very clear about Zhou Daocheng's thoughts. If there were no sufficient interests to drive, who would be willing to provoke a powerful soul-devouring ant colony for no reason? If Zhou Daocheng agreed directly, he would be wary of whether the other party had ulterior motives. Sir, you are too kind. Facing the soul-devouring ant colony alone, we are indeed quite strenuous and really need your help. However, this matter is dangerous, and we will definitely not let the Shanhai sect suffer. We can promise you 3 benefits. Hearing the benefits, Zhou Daocheng also became a little interested and asked, what are the 3 benefits? First, the soul honey brewed by the soul-devouring ant colony. If the ant colony is successfully subdued, each person will have half of the second-level soul honey, and we only need 1/3 of the first-level soul honey. The value of soul honey is self-evident. It has extremely pure and rich spiritual energy. After absorbing it, it can quickly improve strength and has a certain effect of recovering injuries. Let alone the second-level spiritual honey, even the first-level spiritual honey has a very high price in the market, and there is still no market for it. Just the first condition made Zhou Daocheng secretly moved. Secondly, there is a special soil resource in the nest of the soul-swallowing ant colony, called spiritual fertile soil, which is used by the soul-swallowing ant colony to build nests. At that time, all of it can belong to the young master. Zhou Daocheng had never heard of spiritual fertile soil, nor did he know much about it, so he did not react much. However, when Han Yi said the third condition, Zhou Daocheng could not help but be moved. Finally, it is about the distribution of the ant colony. If the ant colony is really conquered, the first queen ant will belong to our spirit snake sect, but later, we can cultivate the second queen ant and give it to the young master to conquer. Zhou Daocheng's eyes were bright, and he looked at Han Yi deeply. He saw that his eyes were sincere and there was no intention of lying at all. This also surprised Zhou Daocheng, and he asked, "Will you teach me the special skills of your spirit snake sect?" Han Yi smiled faintly and said, "Of course, I will not teach you how to tame beasts. I will just tame them and let you control them." Zhou Daocheng nodded when he heard this. In this way, he understood the plan of the spirit snake sect. Although the spirit snake sect would train an ant queen for him, the value was far less than he imagined. For the spirit snake sect, after taming the ant queen, they could use the beast taming method to quickly cultivate the soul-devouring ant colony, which would be a powerful foundation-building force. Moreover, they can use beast control methods to tame ordinary ant colonies into spiritual beasts, and then sell them to the market to reap huge profits. But for Zhou Daocheng, the role of the queen ant is much smaller. Because they don't know how to tame them, the ant colony is far inferior to the spirit snake sect's ant colony in terms of strength and reproduction speed. Moreover, because he does not know the art of controlling animals, Zhou Daocheng can only control the queen ant as a means of fighting for himself, but cannot make profits from it. But even so, Zhou Daocheng was still moved. Although in terms of profits, the spirit snake sect still holds the majority of the advantage, if they can conquer a spirit-swallowing ant queen, their strength can still be greatly improved. And maybe, I have some alternative methods that can improve the quality of the spirit-devouring ant queen. After thinking about it in his mind, Zhou Daocheng also made a decision and said, "The conditions are indeed good. I wonder what kind of formation is needed." Hearing Zhou Daocheng relent, Han Yi also showed a look of joy, and quickly said, "Jin Jie Vine formation. Ant colonies are good at group combat, and they are very powerful when they gather together. If there is a golden Jie Vine formation to divide the battlefield, it can greatly reduce the swallowing rate. The strength of the spirit ant colony. Furthermore, the Jin Jie Vine formation has some underground attack capabilities, which poses a great threat to the queen ant. It can also inhibit the performance of the ant colony. It's just that the number of thorn vines in the golden Jie Vine formation is still too small. You may need to prepare a few more sets. I wonder if the young master has any in stock." Zhou Daocheng waved his hand and said calmly, "Leave this to me. When can we take action? As long as you are ready. We can do it anytime, but it is better to do it as soon as possible, otherwise it will be difficult to restrict the soul-devouring ants if they continue to expand." "Okay, then we will meet at your mine station in a week." After the two sides agreed, Zhou Daocheng also returned to the underground cave and began to make some preparations. In fact, compared with dealing with foundation builders, Zhou Daocheng is indeed better at dealing with second-level insect swarms. After all, individual strength is weak and needs to win by numbers. Zhou Daocheng can completely rely on the formation to restrain it, and only needs to protect his own safety. Therefore, in addition to the Golden Jie Vine formation and Golden Jie 100 Vine formation, Zhou Daocheng also plans to make some other defensive measures. After the last epiphany, Zhou Daocheng's understanding of the formation has deepened a lot, especially with the experience of fusion formation. He can slightly change the formation pattern, thereby changing the formation to a certain extent. This is something that other formation masters cannot do. This time, Zhou Daocheng slightly changed the array pattern of Earth Control spiritual pattern. First, the array range was made smaller, only 1 foot, barely enough for 1 or 2 people to stand. The reduction in area made the spiritual energy consumption smaller, and the condensed earth wall became more solid and solid, surrounding him to form a semicircular cover to protect himself. In addition, Zhou Daocheng also specially refined several sets of flaming arrays, which could form flames around him and cause range damage. Although the power is far less than that of powerful arrays such as splitting gold array, it is enough to deal with ant colonies with a small number and low strength. Zhou Daocheng refined 3 sets of each of these 2 arrays, ensuring that each of himself, Meng Yushan, and Lin Yuan had 1 set. Qin Lai still stayed in the valley to ensure the safety of the base camp, and he was now considered a half-alchemist, barely able to refine first-grade inferior elixirs, but he still needed a lot of time to practice. 7 days passed in a flash. Zhou Daocheng and his 2 companions rushed to the mining site of the Spirit Snake sect, leaving only Qin Lai and the iron-backed barbarian bear in the valley. When the 3 arrived, the Spirit Snake sect had already made preparations, and many powerful people were waiting here, obviously attaching great importance to this matter. The Spirit Snake sect's leader, 3 9th-level Qi refining elders, and 10 8th-level Qi refining deacons, the lineup is magnificent, almost accounting for more than half of the overall power of the Spirit Snake sect. However, the guardian beast, black water spirit snake, was not seen, which is understandable. The huge monster beast does not have an advantage when facing the soul-devouring ant colony, but is easily restricted. And some special beast-controlling methods and formations may have miraculous effects. My friend, we have been waiting for a long time. I wonder how you are prepared. The leader of the spirit snake sect was humble and elegant in a green snake-patterned robe. Zhou Daocheng also gave him enough face and said respectfully, "Hello, senior. I am ready and can set off at any time." No matter what their status is, Zhou Daocheng is in the qi refining stage after all, while the other party is in the foundation building stage. As a senior in the path of cultivation, the proper etiquette is naturally indispensable. The leader of the spirit snake sect waved his hand and said, "Young friend, you don't need to care. This time, you still need to take more care of the soul-devouring ant colony." Zhou Daocheng waved his hand modestly. "You are polite, sect master." After a brief greeting, the group went straight on the road and went to the vicinity of the soul-devouring ant colony's nest to prepare. However, when leaving, Zhou Daocheng suddenly saw the ore exposed on the ground and couldn't help but exclaimed. Light blue, translucent luster, and a faint trace of water-attributed aura, it is an extremely peculiar ore. As if noticing Zhou Daocheng's gaze, Han Yi on the side smiled and explained, "Sir, this is a water-repellent stone vein. The quality is pretty good, it's a pity that there is only material but no place to use it." Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly. The value of water-repellent stone is not high, and it is not low. If it is used in the right place, it has a very high value. But under normal circumstances, especially for the spirit snake sect, it is indeed a bit useless, and it can't even be sold at a good price in the market. After all, water-repellent stone is not a mainstream refining material, nor can it be used as elixir, talisman, beast control, etc. It is not even a formation material, so its value is naturally not high. However, Zhou Daocheng had some ideas in his mind. Water-repellent stone is indeed applicable to a relatively small range. But if there is a chance, I hope to purchase a batch. Zhou Daocheng said lightly. Young friend needs water-repellent stone. The leader of the spirit snake sect asked curiously. Maybe it's useful, just be prepared. The leader of the spirit snake sect nodded his head after thinking about it, and then said generously, "If you need it, contact Elder Han directly in the future, and I will sell it at half the market price, which can be regarded as a testimony of our friendship." Zhou Daocheng secretly felt generous and agreed happily. This discount is not excessive. First, it is a formation transaction, and then it is a cooperation with the business alliance. At present, the two sides are in the honeymoon period. The leader of the spirit snake sect will naturally not benefit from the water-repellent stone. And Zhou Daocheng's thoughts are flying. The water-repellent stone is not very useful for the spirit snake sect because there is no lake where they are. But Zhou Daocheng is different. The White Scale Lake is vast and the lake water is clear. If there is a chance, maybe a secret station can be built at the bottom of the lake. Now the Zhou family is hiding in the dark, and they need this kind of secret living place. Thinking all the way, half a day later, everyone came to the vicinity of the devouring soul ant colony. Compared to the last time I came here, the surrounding environment has changed a lot. Most of the originally dense forest has disappeared, a large number of rocks are exposed on the ground, and the dark entrances to ant holes can be seen from time to time. A large area around here has been built into a nest by the soul-devouring ants, and the spiritual treasures nearby have been almost eaten up. This has caused great harm to the surrounding natural environment. Looking at the pits on the ground, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help frowning. Looking at this formation, the ant colony is not small. The leader of the spirit snake sect nodded and explained. The first-level soul-devouring ant colony can reach a maximum of 100,000, and the area will not exceed 3 kilometers in radius. But looking at the scale of the ant nest in front of us, it should have reached the second-level lower grade, and the number is likely to exceed 200,000. It's a bit troublesome. After speaking, the leader of the spirit snake sect looked at Zhou Daocheng and said, "My friend, can the formation be prepared? You can set it up here in advance, and then I will attract the soul-devouring ant colony out." That's exactly what I want. Zhou Daocheng's original idea was the same, but he had no means to attract the ant colony. Since the arrangements were made, Zhou Daocheng also began to check the surrounding environment and set up the Golden Vine Formation and Gold Cracking Formation. Golden Vine Formation is mainly used to disrupt the ant colony and cut the scene, so it is arranged in the front row. And Gold Splitting Formation is used for killing, so it is arranged at the key entrance behind Golden Vine Formation to ensure maximum killing. After everything was arranged, Zhou Daocheng took out the last set of formation plates. Seeing a set of formation plates, the leader of the spirit snake sect behind him couldn't help but change his face slightly. A first-grade top-grade array. The leader of the spirit snake sect was surprised. As a foundation building expert, he sensed a hint of danger the moment the array appeared, and he couldn't help but feel secretly afraid. This situation is rare for the leader of the spirit snake sect. Under normal circumstances, the power of a first-grade top-grade array is not enough to threaten a foundation-building expert, and it is even difficult to hurt him. However, facing the array of the Shanghai sect, the spirit snake sect did not dare to be so sure. After all, he had personally experienced that the array of the spirit snake sect was much stronger than the array of the same level on the market. It seems that you have made a lot of preparations, but it's good that the success rate of this plan can be increased by a few points. Zhou Daocheng just smiled and didn't speak. After placing the golden spear 100 vine array in the most suitable position, Zhou Daocheng retreated and handed over the next plan to the spirit snake sect. This action was mainly controlled by the spirit snake sect. After all, they were better at dealing with monsters. All the elders and deacons started to move, each doing their job to arrange the battlefield. 10 deacons took out a bag of white powder each and sprinkled it on the surrounding grass at random, covering a full layer. And several elders took out a special pill, dissolved it with water, and evaporated it with flames to spread it into the surrounding air. After doing all this, they looked at the leader of the spirit snake sect with a look of asking for instructions, and only after getting the instructions of agreement did they start the next step. They took out an item from the storage bag, and Zhou Daocheng recognized it at a glance. It turned out to be a top-grade spiritual stone. Top-grade spiritual stones are rich in extremely rich compressed spiritual energy. One is worth 10,000 low-grade spiritual stones, and it is very precious. At this time, Zhou Daocheng immediately understood the idea of the leader of the spirit snake sect. He was going to use extremely rich spiritual energy to attract the soul-devouring ant colony. The soul-devouring ant colony has almost no resistance to high-quality and rich spiritual energy. Once they find an item with spiritual energy, they will devour it crazily. This is the specialty of the soul-devouring ant colony, but also its weakness. After only a cup of tea, the dark ant colony, like a tide, emerged from the anthole and rushed forward in an overwhelming manner, which was creepy. Everyone was frightened and took a few steps back just by seeing this scene. Everyone knew that once they fell into the second-level soul-devouring ant colony, there was only one outcome, that was to be eaten without leaving even a bone. Zhou Daocheng looked calm and said in a cold voice, "I'm going to start manipulating the formation, everyone get ready. Young friend, just let go and perform." As the voice fell, the formation pattern of the golden vine formation appeared on the ground, and the light of light gold flowed. After a breath, 9 huge thorny vines instantly broke through the ground and grew in the center of the ant colony. This sudden change instantly disrupted the inseparable team of the ant colony and caused a lot of commotion. The thick vines whipped wantonly, dividing the originally united ant colony into 4 small areas, and the overall momentum was greatly weakened. At the same time, the white powder spread on the ground by the deacon of the spirit snake sect also played a huge role at this time. When the soul-devouring ants crawled over the white powder, their bellies were immediately corroded, accompanied by crackling sounds, and curls of black smoke rose into the sky. What kind of powder is this, and the effect is so strong? Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but feel puzzled. On the side, Han Yi smiled and explained, "This is a method we specially prepared for the soul-devouring ants. When the soul-devouring ants devour spiritual stones and spiritual objects, they will release a special liquid, and when this liquid and white powder are fused, it will turn into a corrosive liquid with strong lethality." I see. Not only the white powder, but also the pills evaporated in the air by the elders of the spirit snake sect are also playing a role. The effect of the pill can be felt without asking. It is a paralyzing and corrosive gas. It is not a big deal for the monks to inhale it into the body, but if the soul-devouring ants with weaker individual strength absorb it, their strength will be greatly reduced. Being weakened from 2 aspects at the same time, the momentum of the ant colony was immediately suppressed. The first batch of soul-devouring ants had almost no room for resistance and were directly beaten to death by the golden vine formation. But the second-level soul-devouring ant colony is far from as simple as imagined. The huge number of the colony is their real trump card and the means of survival in this world of immortal cultivation. The effect of white powder and elixir is indeed very good, but the number is limited after all. In just a cup of tea, tens of thousands of soul-devouring ants swarmed out, completely covering the ground, and consuming all the white powder with their corpses. Even the smell of elixir in the air was consumed in a short time and could no longer affect the subsequent ant colonies. At this time, everyone's face was solemn, and they understood that the next step was the real tough battle. Zhou Daocheng said in a deep voice, "Get ready to take action. They have begun to gnaw on the thorny vines. The first line of defense can't wait too long." The leader of the spirit snake sect nodded slightly and personally controlled the golden splitting formation in the back. In the most densely populated area of the ant colony, golden red spiritual energy permeated, and the violent breath exploded in an instant and spread in all directions. In an instant, 3 golden cracking arrays exploded at the same time, forming 3 dazzling light balls in the center of the battlefield, making it impossible for the naked eye to see directly. A terrifying loud noise exploded in the ears, and the ground was shaking constantly. The flames and golden knives were wielded and chopped in the ant colony, like chopping melons and vegetables, causing terrible casualties. Just the power that spilled out shook the surrounding ant colonies to death, and large pieces of corpses were spread out and piled up in a thick layer. But what makes people's scalp numb is the dense ant colony behind. It seems endless, without any thoughts or emotions, rushing forward. The golden J vine formation at the front has almost been completely eaten away. Even the formation plate buried underground has been out of Zhou Daocheng's control, and it is likely that it has been devoured. Zhou Daocheng's face was ugly. Under the attack of such a terrifying monster, not even the formation could survive, let alone the monk's body. Moreover, the ants showed no fear. They climbed over the hills of corpses of their companions and pounced on them without fear. Feeling the pressure coming towards their faces, beads of sweat broke out on the foreheads of everyone in the spirit snake sect. "Be prepared and act according to the plan," the leader of the spirit snake sect calmly ordered. The elders and deacons divided into 2 teams and began to cast spells in an orderly manner. Only then did Zhou Daocheng discover that almost all the deacons and elders who came this time had fire spiritual roots and water spiritual roots. The monk with the water spirit root cast a special spell to form a black swamp on the ground, blocking the ant colony's only path. The monks with fire spiritual roots also cast fire attribute spells. The terrifying flames formed a fire wall, burning a large number of approaching ants. The black swamp spell was used for control, and the fire spell was used for attack. The 2 complemented each other and greatly restricted the progress of the ant colony. However, although this method was very effective, it consumed too much spiritual energy, and the monks at the 8th and 9th levels of qi refining could not maintain it for a long time. After a dozen breaths, several deacons were panting, their spiritual energy was almost exhausted, and their bodies could not stop shaking. In this case, Zhou Daocheng made a quick move. Flame Array and Earth Guarding Spirit Array were arranged at the same time. Earth Guarding Spirit Array formed a semicircular fortress, wrapping Zhou Daocheng and the other 2 inside to prevent attacks from the ant colony. Ant colonies generally only have the first grade lower and middle grades, so it is difficult to gnaw the Earth Guarding Spirit Array in a short time. And around, the Flame Array released flames unscrupulously. Although the power was not as powerful as the fire spell, it lasted longer. As a result, the pressure on the monks of the spirit snake sect was greatly reduced, and a look of surprise suddenly appeared in their eyes. Zhou Daocheng's formation method did not disappoint them. Not only did it open up the situation, but it even began to guide the direction of this war. At this time, the leader of the spirit snake sect, who had never taken action, suddenly said cautiously, "The first-level superior ant colony is coming, can you still resist it?" Zhou Daocheng's eyes were sharp, and he said calmly, "It's barely possible, but this is not the way to win. I have to trouble you to get rid of the queen ant." The leader of the spirit snake sect nodded and said, "When the nest is empty, it's time for me to take action." Both of them knew in their hearts that they could not confront the soul-devouring ant colony for a long time. The continuous combat capability of the ant colony was by no means comparable to that of human monks. The best decision is to get rid of the queen ant, and the entire ant colony will fall apart. And this is the task of the leader of the spirit snake sect. Just as the leader of the spirit snake sect said, as a large number of first-level middle and lower-grade ants were killed or injured, the real elite soul-devouring ants began to appear. The first-level upper-grade soul-devouring ants are larger than the first-level middle and lower-grade soul-devouring ants, a full foot long, covered with black armor, with a shiny luster, and even flames can't burn them easily. And there are more than 2,000 first-level upper-grade soul-devouring ants like this. The individual strength of each one cannot be compared with the others, but when gathered together, it is far beyond the ability of the late-stage chi refining cultivators to resist. Even the elders of the Spirit Snake sect fought and retreated, not daring to face them head-on. Zhou Daocheng and the other two also quickly withdrew the formation and retreated to the rear. On the one hand, they were indeed not strong enough to resist the opponent's offensive. On the other hand, they also tried to lead this group of elite soul-devouring ants away as much as possible to prevent affecting the beheading action of the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. Once the queen ant is attacked, it will definitely summon all the ants to return to guard. At that time, Zhou Daocheng will use the golden sword and white vine formation to block them, which is enough to contain the ant colony. The development of things is just as they expected. After chasing for only a few kilometers, the elite soul-swallowing ants stopped. As if receiving an order, they began to rush towards the nest. The master succeeded. Stop them quickly. We can't let them return, otherwise the master will be in trouble. The elder of the Spirit Snake sect shouted and quickly used means to stop them. However, the ant colony is like a well-disciplined army, not affected by the outside world at all. After forcibly cutting off a part of the ant colony to block, they rushed to the nest. Facing hundreds of first-level superior soul-swallowing ants, although everyone is not afraid, they can't quickly solve it in a short time. This delay is more than a dozen breaths. Suddenly, everyone in the Spirit Snake sect was sweating profusely, and they kept breaking forward, but were desperately resisted by the ant colony. Seeing that the first-grade superior ant colony was about to return to the nest, the pupils of the elders and deacons shrank, a trace of despair flashed in the depths of their eyes, and their breath also weakened. It's over. More than 1,000 elite soul-devouring ants have joined the battlefield. It will be troublesome to capture the soul-devouring ants. Damn, are we going to give up all our efforts? An elder chopped a soul-devouring ant fiercely, his teeth clattered, and his fists clenched tightly. The price paid this time was enough to make Zhou Daocheng and the Spirit Snake sect heartbroken. If they failed, it would definitely be an unacceptable loss. The white powder and elixir used by the Spirit Snake sect were of a quality close to the second grade and extremely expensive. In addition, a set of golden vine formation and a set of splitting gold formation were consumed. These were their last two sets of formations. Zhou Daocheng's losses were not small either. 2 sets of golden vine formation and 2 sets of splitting gold formation had been destroyed, and his strength was greatly reduced. But fortunately, he has now broken through to a first-grade superior formation master, and this loss is barely acceptable. But if such a loss is suffered and the action does not gain anything, it is really heartbreaking. However, just when everyone was in despair, the ground in the distance once again appeared with a glowing light, and the power of the formation suddenly appeared. A more powerful and terrifying force is slowly rising. The next moment, the ground collapsed. It was like a stone breaking the sky. Nearly 100 thorny vines with a metallic luster instantly broke through the ground within a radius of hundreds of meters, and all the rocks, trees, soil, were lifted into the air. The thorny vines that were thicker and taller than the golden vine formation pierced the sky brazenly, like a metal jungle. The first time they felt the breath, everyone couldn't help but take a breath. Is this the golden vine formation? No, that's not right. This is a first-grade top-grade formation. A cultivator from the Spirit Snake sect exclaimed. How could a first-grade top-grade formation possibly emit such a terrifying aura? Even the elders at the peak of the 9th level of chi refining felt an inexplicable palpitation at this moment. Normally, a first-grade top-grade formation can barely match the 9th level chi refining strongman, but it is definitely not as powerful as it is now. But facing the metal thorn vines in front of him, he felt a sense of fear, as if he could not stop such a powerful formation with his own strength. After being stunned for a few seconds, everyone immediately guessed the owner of the formation and immediately turned their heads to look behind them. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng's eyes were calm. He held the spell in his hand, and the earth-yellow aura flowed, controlling the golden spear 100 vine formation in the distance. It's him. The faces of the elders and deacons changed slightly, and there was a trace of awe in the depths of their pupils. What a terrible formation. An elderly elder couldn't help but sigh. It's really scary, especially this kind of formation. I feel like I can't resist it at all. It's close to the 2nd level. What kind of formation inheritance is this? Zhou Daocheng looked straight ahead and said coldly, are you guys going to watch the fun here? Several people were stunned, smiled awkwardly, and immediately rushed to the direction of the ant nest and joined the battle. Although the golden spear 100 vine formation is powerful, it is not airtight, and its attack power is also insufficient, especially for dealing with smaller soul-devouring ants. But with the help of the elders, the efficiency of hunting with the formation has been greatly improved. Even with the assistance of the formation, a devastating blow was launched against the ant colony, and it was quickly killed in a short time. Only corpses were left on the ground, piled up like a hill. Looking at the densely packed soul-devouring ants on the ground, which had piled up half a foot high, Zhou Daocheng still felt terrified. If you encounter a soul-devouring ant colony in the wild without any preparation, it must be a desperate thing, and there will be no chance of escape. The remaining ant colonies have returned to the ant nest. I wonder if the sect master succeeded. The elite ant colonies have been destroyed. The queen ant is not strong in combat. It shouldn't be a problem, right? Not necessarily. Zhou Daocheng frowned and shook his head, saying, this ant colony is quite strong. There is a high possibility that there are second-level soul-devouring ants. An elderly elder frowned and said, it is indeed possible, but the number of second-level soul-devouring ants is definitely not large. With the strength of the sect master, although it will take some effort, it should be solved. Zhou Daocheng was still not optimistic and said, I am afraid that the second-level soul-devouring ants will entangle the seniors and cause the queen ant to escape. After this, the elders of the spirit snake sect stopped talking. The situation Zhou Daocheng said was very likely. Because just now, they were also forcibly stopped by the soul-devouring ants using similar means, and they almost returned to the nest. If it weren't for Zhou Daocheng's formation to save the situation in time, this plan might have failed. Although the first-grade upper-grade soul-devouring ants are not strong, they are fearless and disciplined, which is enough to affect the direction of the battle. At this time, the elders of the spirit snake sect also noticed that the huge number of thorny vines that covered the sky and the sun had retreated underground, but the aura of the formation on the ground had not disappeared. Seeing this scene, the faces of several elders also changed slightly. It seems that without their knowledge, the young master of the Shanghai sect has already taken action in advance and used the formation to participate in the battle of the second-grade strongman. In the ant nest, the leader of the spirit snake sect had a solemn face. His spear pierced a second-grade lower-grade soul-devouring ant, but he did not dare to relax his face. Because there were 11 second-grade soul-devouring ants in front of him. Although their strength was far inferior to that of the Foundation Establishment Cultivator, they completely restrained him with their numerical advantage. If they were to kill them all, it would take a lot of time. But if left alone, the attack of the second-level soul-devouring ant is definitely not weak enough to use its sharp mouthparts to break the skin of the Foundation-building strongman. The strength of the second-level soul-devouring ant is between the 9th level of Qi training and the Foundation-building period. Ordinary 9th level Qi training is probably not a match, which is really very troublesome. What really makes the leader of the spirit snake sect anxious is that there is a group of first-level superior soul-devouring ants in the back, holding up the queen ant and trying to escape from the ant nest. Once you go deeper underground, the terrain is complicated, and it will be troublesome to find the queen of the soul-devouring ant. Can't wait. Must act as soon as possible. The leader of the spirit snake sect stared, and the long spear in his hand stabbed out brazenly, and the tip of the spear emitted a terrifying force, picking apart the second-level soul-devouring ants on both sides, trying to break through the encirclement. However, the situation often does not go as he wishes. Under the control of the queen ant, the second-level soul-devouring ant is not afraid of death, and even at the cost of death, it directly climbs up the ankle of the leader of the spirit snake sect and bites it frantically. Instantly, the skin was torn, blood flowed out, and the pain and numbness surged, causing the leader of the spirit snake sect to pause and his face changed drastically. This moment of stagnation also gave other second-level soul-devouring ants a chance, rushing in from different directions, climbing up the body and starting to bite. The leader of the spirit snake sect was shocked, knowing that he could not sit and wait for death, and immediately consumed a lot of mana, releasing the spiritual energy of the foundation building period to the surface of the body, instantly isolating the attack of the soul-devouring ants. But in this way, a lot of mana was consumed, almost depleted, and he could only take a lot of pills to restore spiritual energy. After stabbing 2 second-level soul-devouring ants to death again, the leader of the spirit snake sect looked pale, but thinking of the value of the soul-devouring queen ant, he quickly got up and chased. Just a delay for a while has given the soul-devouring queen ant a chance. A narrow passage leading to the underground was dug out in a short time. In the eyes of the leader of the spirit snake sect, the fat body of the queen ant drilled into the passage and disappeared at a very fast speed. The spear broke through the soil, breaking the several-meter-long passage, but the soul-devouring ant queen was still nowhere to be seen. Asshole. Resentment and anger rose in his heart, and the hand holding the spear also exerted some strength, fiercely sweeping towards the surrounding soul-devouring ants, wantonly venting his anger. The violent force destroyed the entire ant nest, and a large number of corpses were pierced into pieces. But after a few breaths, the face of the leader of the spirit snake sect suddenly changed, and his eyes quickly turned back to look in the direction where the soul-devouring ant queen left. Bang! Kai Leng Leng. A thick metal thorn vine quickly broke through the soil, spreading from deep underground, bringing a fat and thin body out of the ground. Accompanied by the sharp and desperate screams of the ant queen, echoing throughout the ant nest below. The soul-devouring ant queen tried to use mental attacks to interrupt the control of the thorn vines over herself. Unfortunately, the thorny vines were only formed by the spiritual energy of the formation, without any thinking or consciousness, and the spiritual attack that the soul-devouring ant queen was proud of was completely ineffective. Witnessing this scene, the leader of the spirit snake sect immediately guessed the source of the vines, and his expression changed again and again, his anger disappeared, and a look of surprise emerged. Ha ha ha, good job. Thank you for your help, little friend. After shouting happily, the leader of the spirit snake sect quickly made a move, and with a stab of the gun, he directly injured the soul-devouring ant queen. Then he threw out the second-level long rope magic weapon, quickly tied up the soul-devouring ant queen, and completely controlled her, and no matter how hard she struggled, it was useless. Mission accomplished. Looking at this queen ant, even the leader of the spirit snake sect, who was a foundation-building strongman, could not suppress his excitement. What this meant, he knew very well in his heart. With the beast-controlling methods of the spirit snake sect, it is enough to cultivate a larger and more powerful group of soul-devouring ants. Moreover, they can also tame the first-level middle and lower-quality soul-devouring ants and sell them to obtain a continuous stream of huge profits. It is no exaggeration to say that just relying on this soul-devouring ant queen is enough to support the spirit snake sect to cultivate a top-level strongman in the late stage of foundation building. There is even a chance to glimpse the Purple Mansion realm. With such an opportunity, how can the leader of the spirit snake sect not be excited? I was really careless. If it weren't for the timely action of the young friend from the Shanghai sect, I'm afraid I would have missed this great opportunity today. The leader of the spirit snake sect couldn't help but sigh in his heart as he grabbed the soul-devouring ant queen. Alas, I wonder if the sect master has solved it. It's been so long. Who knows? Why is there no movement at all? Why don't you go down and take a look? Maybe you can help. HMPH, stay here peacefully and don't go down to cause trouble for the sect master. With your strength, a second-level soul-devouring ant will swallow you. Great Elder, your words are a bit hurtful. Quote. Just as the few people were talking, Zhou Daocheng, who had closed his eyes for a long time, slowly said, "It should be over." As soon as the words fell, the leader of the spirit snake sect walked out of the ant nest, and a hearty voice came. Thank you for your help, little friend, otherwise I would have almost let it run away. Zhou Daocheng just smiled. The main reason is that the senior is so powerful that he can push the swallowing spirit to such an extent. I'm just adding fuel to the fire at the end. The surrounding spirit snake sect elders and deacons all looked at Zhou Daocheng in surprise. They never thought that this young man, without their knowledge, had already participated in the battle during the foundation building period and successfully helped the sect master capture the spirit-devouring ant queen. Although the queen ant is not very strong, they would never think that a strong man at the 9th level of chi refining can really fight against the 2nd-level demonic beast, the spirit-devouring queen ant. The leader of the spirit snake sect was full of joy and said, "My little friend, I am able to successfully complete the plan this time thanks to your help. Now it is time to reap the rewards." With that said, he made an invitation to Zhou Daocheng. Whether it is Lingmi, Lingwatu, or other hospitals in the ant nest, they are all located very deep underground. Out of respect, the leader of the spirit snake sect did not collect it directly, but invited Zhou Daocheng to distribute it together. This was also a recognition of Zhou Daocheng's strength. Entering the ant nest along the narrow passage, it stretches in all directions, just like a well-designed underground palace, which is amazing. When you go about 10 feet deep into the ground, the space suddenly becomes wider. This is the living area of the queen ant, and it is also the place where the ant colony stores spiritual honey. Looking at it, the light cyan viscous spiritual honey is like crystal jade, embedded in the holes of the stone wall, emitting a soft light under the illumination of the luminous stone. An entire wall, 80% of which is filled with spiritual honey, is filled with extremely rich spiritual energy. Just one whiff makes people feel relaxed and happy, and a lot of the consumed spiritual energy is restored. Even the injuries on his body seemed to have recovered somewhat when he was in this space. This is the characteristic of Lingmi, pure and rich spiritual energy, and the ability to repair injuries to a certain extent. Because Lingmi has two very important functions for the ant colony. On the one hand, it is to cultivate larvae, so not only does the spiritual energy of Lingmi need to be rich, but it must also be easy to absorb. On the other hand, it supplies the queen ant, repairs the damage caused by rapid reproduction, and supplies essence and energy, so it also has a certain therapeutic effect. But in most cases, after monks obtain spiritual honey, they will use it as a cultivation resource to quickly improve their own strength or to cultivate future generations. Everyone present showed horrified expressions when they saw some spiritual honey, and could not recover for a long time. Zhou Daocheng glanced around and found that there were only 3 qualities of Lingmi: first order mid-grade, first order high-grade, and second order low-grade. First order mid-grade spiritual honey has the largest number, accounting for 80%. The first level top grade is nearly 17%. As for the second grade low-grade spiritual honey, which is also the highest quality spiritual honey, its color is close to turquoise and translucent like jade, with only 3%. According to the initial distribution, each person of the second level spiritual honey will get half, and Zhou Daocheng of the first level spiritual honey will take 2/3. However, after seeing such high-quality spiritual honey, the leader of the spirit snake sect had only one thought in his mind: miscalculation. Big loss. Ahem, little friend, this spiritual honey. Senior, aren't you going to regret it? The leader of the spirit snake sect stiffened, shook his head decisively, and said, of course not, but can we, the spirit snake sect, buy part of it? It can be calculated based on the market price. Zhou Daocheng also decisively refused this request. Spirit stones can be earned, but precious cultivation resources like spirit honey are hard to come by. They are precious treasures of heaven and earth that are difficult to buy even with spirit stones. Even if the amount of spiritual honey is huge and cannot be used up in a short period of time, Zhou Daocheng will choose to store it for later use and will never choose to sell it to other forces. The leader of the spirit snake sect sighed helplessly, but had no intention of going back and took the initiative to divide the spiritual honey on the wall. The second level spiritual honey is smaller in number and is divided directly from the middle into 2 parts. Zhou Daocheng took out a specially prepared bottle and collected the second level spiritual honey first. The jade bottle, which is the size of a clay pot, holds most of the bottle, which is close to 1.5 liters. Due to its very high density, it weighs nearly dozens of kilograms, making it very heavy. The first grade high-grade spiritual honey is nearly 11 liters. The density is relatively small, but it is still very heavy. It contains 4 jade bottles. The last remaining first-grade middle-grade spiritual honey was in large quantity, and Zhou Daocheng did not carry too many jade bottles, so he could only use a large wine jar to contain it. More than 50 liters of first-grade middle-grade spiritual honey was also very precious. After putting all the spirit honey into the storage bag, Zhou Daocheng immediately felt full of satisfaction. The harvest from this cooperation in hunting the spirit-devouring ant colony completely exceeded his budget. The spirit snake sect also installed the spirit honey and scraped the entire wall with a scraper. They almost scraped off a layer of stone before they stopped. Then came the second harvest. The leader of the spirit snake sect walked into the deeper cave, took out 4 second-order spirit-eating ants, placed them in front of Zhou Daocheng, and said, "My friend, you may not know the situation of ant colonies. In an ant colony, if there is no queen, one of the strongest female spirit-devouring ants will be selected to transform into a queen. And among these second-level spirit-devouring ants, there happens to be a female spirit-devouring ant. As long as she breaks away from the current queen, she can successfully become a new queen, and the spirit-devouring ant colony can also differentiate into a new group." Zhou Daocheng nodded silently. He already understood the principle, but it was still difficult to transform this female spirit-swallowing ant into a queen ant. The leader of the spirit snake sect took the initiative to say, "My friend, if you are assured, you can give this female spirit-swallowing ant to me. After the taming is completed and the population has expanded to a certain size, I will give it to you." After thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng weighed it again and again in his heart, and finally refused. Zhou Daocheng was not too assured about the queen ant tamed by the spirit snake sect and controlled by the unique beast control method. It is necessary to be on guard against others. If the spirit snake sect does something, Zhou Daocheng will most likely not be able to detect it, and he may be tricked, which will not be worth the loss. If he really wants to cultivate this kind of spirit beast, Zhou Daocheng will never want to use the hands of others, but would rather cultivate it completely by himself. And it has been verified before that the spirit secret method can be used on monster beasts. Although it is not as powerful as the beast control method, the effect is still good. In the end, the leader of the spirit snake sect did not force it, but generously gave Zhou Daocheng 2 second-level soul-devouring ants, 1 male and 1 female. In fact, according to the original distribution, the leader of the spirit snake sect only needed to give him a second-level female soul-devouring ant and 2 first-level male soul-devouring ants. However, perhaps in order to deepen the cooperative relationship between the two parties, the leader of the spirit snake sect was extremely generous and gave all second-level soul-devouring ants. After dealing with the queen ant, there is another very important resource, and it is a resource that has not been allocated before: soul-devouring ant eggs. Walking into the ant queen's nest, in the deeper pit at the back, there is a snow-white oval-shaped soul-swallowing ant egg. The number is very large, conservatively estimated to be tens of thousands. Ant eggs are also valuable. If you can hatch soul-swallowing ants, it will be a considerable fortune. And ant eggs can be eaten directly. It is a kind of food rich in spiritual energy and can quickly restore mana. Senior, what do you plan to do with these soul-swallowing ant eggs? Zhou Daocheng asked. The leader of the spirit snake sect thought for a moment, frowned slightly, and said, "My friend, how about giving all these ant eggs to me? I will take other resources to supply you." Zhou Daocheng thought about it and roughly understood his idea. For the leader of the spirit snake sect, as long as the queen ant is tamed, he can start hatching directly and cultivate a soul-swallowing ant colony of more than 10,000 in a short time. However, for Zhou Daocheng, it will take a lot of time to cultivate the queen ant. This batch of ant eggs will die in a short time before they can hatch. After weighing it in his mind, Zhou Daocheng nodded and agreed, then let's do as the senior said. As for resources, we need water-avoiding stones. No problem, Elder Han Yi, you will be fully responsible for this matter, and try to trade at a preferential price. Elder Han Yi agreed seriously. All the harvests were stuffed into the storage bag, and everyone had a happy smile on their faces. The only thing left in the cave now is the spiritual fertile soil mixed in the walls of the ant nest. Because of the large amount and the need for time to screen, Zhou Daocheng did not collect it at the first time. I still plan to wait until later, and use this place as a resource point and slowly move it back to the valley. Leaving the ant nest together, the leader of the spirit snake sect couldn't wait to rush back to the sect. The queen ant was seriously injured. He also had to tame and treat it in time, and hatch this batch of fresh soul-swallowing ant eggs. These things are urgent. Zhou Daocheng did not stay for long and quickly returned to the valley. After returning to the underground cave and stuffing all the harvests into the warehouse, Zhou Daocheng sat down with satisfaction. The harvest this time, just in terms of the price of the spiritual honey, is far more than 5,000 spiritual stones, or even more. After all, the value of the second-level spiritual honey is too high, which is of great benefit to the foundation-building strongman. Although the value of the first-level spiritual honey is slightly inferior, the quantity is huge, enough to support the development of Zhou Daocheng and others in the qi refining period. With the first-level spiritual honey, whether it is Zhou Daocheng, Meng Yushan, Lin Yuan, Qin Lai and others, they can break through to the 9th level of qi refining faster. Including family members, if there are descendants with outstanding talents, they can also use the spiritual honey to quickly improve their cultivation, and try to break through the 9th level of qi refining before the age of 70 to increase the probability of breaking through the foundation. Such natural treasures can greatly enhance the potential of a family and bring about a complete transformation. Zhou Daocheng did not dare to be careless, and immediately took out the sealed jade jar and packed all the spiritual honey to prevent the spiritual energy from dissipating. However, the most precious thing is not the non-renewable resource such as spiritual honey, but the swallowing ants that can continuously brew spiritual honey. Zhou Daocheng took out 2 soul-devouring ants, and his excitement almost overflowed. These are 2 second-level soul-devouring ants. From the perspective of strength alone, they are enough to rival 2 peak qi refining level 9 warriors, and are an extremely powerful force. Moreover, if they can be domesticated and reproduced, they will form a whole group of soul-devouring ants. The huge number of ant colonies, coupled with the continuous supply of spiritual honey, are worth no less than 2 foundation-building cultivators. These 2 second-level soul-devouring ants alone are enough to expand Zhou Daocheng's current power by more than 3 times. But before that, Zhou Daocheng still needs to do some preparation. The first is the control of the spiritual secret method. After controlling the iron-armed barbarian bear, Zhou Daocheng was no longer able to control other individuals, let alone the second-level monster beast. So the first thing Zhou Daocheng did was to come to the valley and unlock the control of Huang Zhou, who was at the 7th level of qi refining. Since coming to the valley, they have behaved very steadily and have fully integrated into life here, so Zhou Daocheng is relieved of them. Moreover, they are not very strong, only at the 7th level of qi refining, so it is easier to control them if something goes wrong. More importantly, the formation of a power cannot be completely controlled by the control of the spiritual secret method. This is an unhealthy way of development. At first, the use of the spiritual secret method was just to prevent the leakage of secrets or uncontrollable situations. But now with the improvement of strength and the better relationship between each other, there is no worry in this regard. Of course, the most important thing is that everyone in the valley is now a grasshopper on the same rope, with common interests and goals, which is enough to twist everyone into a ball. Zhou Daocheng was able to use the spiritual secret method again, and he immediately controlled the female second-level swallowing ant. In fact, in the current situation, it is already considered a queen ant, and has the ability to mate with male swallowing ants. As long as it starts to lay eggs, a new swallowing ant colony can be born. However, Zhou Daocheng does not intend to let them reproduce immediately, and will focus on restoring their bodies for the time being. Because Zhou Daocheng has an idea in his mind and needs to try it out urgently. If it succeeds, he may be able to cultivate a higher quality and more potential swallowing ant colony. This idea is innate purple qi. After a year and a half of hard work, Zhou Daocheng, relying on his super endurance and physical strength, harvested every once in a while and had collected a lot of innate purple qi. Looking at the innate purple qi that was about to merge into a strand in his body, Zhou Daocheng estimated that it would take 1 or 2 more efforts to form the second strand of innate purple qi. That night, Zhou Daocheng went boating late at night, taking advantage of the bright moonlight, and sailed all the way to the dark place. The moonlight was deep and the fragrance of flowers was charming. Only the boys panting, the girls frown, and the intertwined music were left. Midnight later, the forest birds flew into the night sky with cries, leaving only the silent Balin Lake. What kind of skills are you practicing? Why are your strength and endurance so strong? Zhou Daocheng said calmly. To be honest, my skills are indeed extraordinary. They were created by a brilliant predecessor. If that's the case, I wonder what skills it is. Wu Tu Tai Tai La skills. Half a month later. Zhou Daocheng visited again. Zhao Yunji, who had not yet fully recovered, once again bore a burden beyond her ability. When the second half of the night ended, her breath was a little weak, her lips were slightly pale, her breath was like a gossamer, and her eyes were reluctant to open for a long time. Zhou Daocheng carefully covered her with a quilt and returned to the underground cave alone. Looking at the innate purple energy that had been fully formed in her body, she couldn't help but feel excited. She couldn't help but clench her hands tightly, and her breathing became a little heavy. It's finally done. I wonder what kind of changes will happen when it is used on the soul-devouring ant. However, before using it on the soul-devouring ants, Zhou Daocheng still needs to make some other attempts. He first led the innate purple qi out of his body and tried to absorb it himself. If he succeeded, he might be able to further improve his talent and strength, which would bring greater value and be more practical than cultivating the soul-devouring ants. Unfortunately, after many attempts, there was no effect. His own body did not react to the innate purple qi at all. It just wandered in his body and could not be absorbed. Is it because I am the breeder of the innate purple qi that I cannot absorb it? Zhou Daocheng was a little confused, so he found Zhou Daoyuan who was practicing. Using the same method, he tried to integrate the innate purple qi into Daoyuan's body, but unfortunately the results still disappointed him. The situation was the same as in his own body. The purple qi just wandered in his body and could not be absorbed deeply at all. Zhou Daocheng sighed and had no choice but to give up this idea. Returning to the underground cave again, Zhou Daocheng excitedly brought the innate purple qi close to the queen ant. The innate purple energy fluctuated slightly, and soon turned into thousands of tiny threads, which quickly merged into the queen ant's body. The queen ant chirped softly, and her breath also changed slightly, and a layer of light purple halo appeared on the surface of her body. Zhou Daocheng understood that this was the process of the queen ant absorbing the innate purple energy. After completely absorbing this power, the queen ant would also change. It was just unclear what kind of changes would happen to the queen ant. Level improvement, potential enhancement, or other aspects of improvement. The absorption time lasted for 5 hours. It was not until noon the next day that the purple halo on the queen ant slowly dissipated and completely merged into her body. The queen ant itself also underwent a huge change, which made Zhou Daocheng open his eyes wide to check. First of all, the queen ant's shell, which was originally a dark and shiny luster, but now a layer of purple mysterious lines appeared in the shell. This made the shell more tough and the breath more powerful, as if it was more difficult to break. Moreover, after a simple trial, Zhou Daocheng found that the current carapace can prevent the invasion of flames to a great extent, and the defense ability has been greatly improved. The mouth parts of the queen ant have also become as tough as magic weapons, and the combat ability has been further improved. In addition, the strength and physical fitness of the queen ant seem to have been strengthened, much stronger than the other second-level soul-devouring ant. However, the queen ant's strength did not last too long. If it wants to truly become a queen ant, it must give up its own powerful strength and transform into a queen ant dedicated to reproduction. And the special abilities it has after the change of innate purple chi will also be passed on to its descendants through blood, breeding a new soul-devouring ant colony. After only 1 day, the queen ant began to transform. She shed her hard shell and transformed into a fat body, truly becoming the queen ant in an ant colony. When Zhou Daocheng saw this scene, he knew that the reproduction of the soul-devouring ant colony was about to begin. However, it still takes a lot of time to develop into a powerful tribe. Zhou Daocheng opened up a new spirit beast room in the underground cave, with an area of about 20 square meters, which was specially used to place the spirit-swallowing ant queen and to breed the spirit-swallowing ants. At the same time, he also took out a part of the second-level spirit honey and fed it to the weak queen ant to help it recover as soon as possible and enter the breeding period as soon as possible. The male spirit-swallowing ant has been tied up because Zhou Daocheng did not use the spirit secret method to control it. But now, with the appearance of the queen ant, Zhou Daocheng can directly control this male spirit-swallowing ant through the queen's ability. After putting it into the spirit beast room together, Zhou Daocheng no longer cares about it. After all, he doesn't know how the ant colony should reproduce. Moreover, Zhou Daocheng still has a lot of things to do. On the one hand, the spiritual fertile soil in the ant nest needs to be collected and transported in time. This kind of high-quality soil-like natural treasure has extremely high value. On the other hand, the water-repellent stone promised by the spirit snake sect also needs to be transported back as soon as possible, which may be of great use. Finally, for the development of the family, Zhou Daocheng plans to send a batch of spirit honey back. The Zhou family is now in a state of disrepair. With the death of Zhou Yonghan, the Yang generation of the Zhou family has completely withdrawn from the stage of history and become a thing of the past. As the backbone of the Chang generation, there are not many people left now because of the death of the elders. The Shou generation is not prosperous to begin with. Not only are there fewer people, but the overall strength is also very weak. Zhou Shorong, the only Shou generation elder who has reached the 9th level of Qi training, also died while escorting the foundation building pill. Therefore, the most important thing for the Zhou family now is to cultivate the Dao generation. The newborn child represents a new hope and also implies that a new era for the Zhou family is coming. However, in order to buy the foundation building pill, the family has almost exhausted all the resources in the family and is no longer able to cultivate offspring. At most, they can catch some white-scaled sea bass and use the fish meat to make food to barely improve the child's physique. If they are more extravagant, they can also take some fish eggs. Apart from this, there is nothing else that can be supplied. It can be said that the foundation building pill overdraws the family's foundation and heritage, and while maintaining the present, it overdraws the future potential. However, once this batch of spiritual honey is supplied, everything will change. There is only 1.5 liters of the second-level low-grade spiritual honey, so Zhou Daocheng naturally couldn't bear to give it away, so he kept it for himself. Although there are 8.5 liters of first-grade high-quality spiritual honey, Zhou Daocheng needs to use this quality of spiritual honey himself. Moreover, he also needs to allocate a part of it to cultivate the power of Shanhai sect and supply the newly bred soul-devouring ant queen. Therefore, only the first-grade medium-quality spiritual honey was sent back to the family, 30 liters were sent back, and 10 liters were kept for himself. The first-grade medium-quality spiritual honey can be slightly reduced in quality after being diluted with spiritual springs, which is just suitable for younger clan members to eat. Moreover, Zhou Daocheng is least distressed about this quality of spiritual honey, because as the soul-devouring ants multiply, the first spiritual honey that can be brewed is the first-grade medium-low quality, which can be replenished soon. The task of transporting spiritual honey was given to Zhao Yunji. After all, no one else could arrange it. By the way, Zhou Daocheng also gave Zhao Yunji a small can of first-grade medium-quality spiritual honey as a travel fee, and also thanked her for her great contribution to the innate purple energy, which was just enough to replenish her body. The collection of fertile spiritual soil was handed over to Lin Yuan, Huangzhou and others. Lin Yuan was responsible for escorting them to the ant cave, while Huangzhou and other 7th-level qi refining cultivators were mainly responsible for mining and transportation. As for the purchase of water-repellent stones, Meng Yushan contacted the Spirit Snake sect. Now, the two forces have just gone through a close cooperation, and the relationship is in the honeymoon period, so they get along very well. In the purchase of water-repellent stones, Meng Yushan was also given a great discount, and there was almost no plan to make money. Swallowing spirit ant eggs can be exchanged for almost 1,000 kilograms of raw water-absorbing stone, which can be refined into pure water-absorbing stone, weighing almost 100 kilograms. This amount is definitely not small. The Spirit Snake sect has been very generous, which is equivalent to giving away hundreds of kilograms for free. Faced with such sincerity, Zhou Daocheng accepted it unceremoniously. There will be other cooperation between the two parties in the future, so it is very necessary to enhance their relationship. Next, Zhou Daocheng happened to be able to use the waterproof stone to complete some of his own ideas. Water-repellent stone, as its name suggests, has the ability to avoid water. If a waterproof stone is placed in the water, it will repel the surrounding water and form a cavity. The higher the quality of the waterproof stone, the larger the hole it can create in the water. Even monks can enter it and move deep underwater. There are even some extremely powerful sect forces that can use a large number of extremely high-quality waterproof stones to build an underwater station or even directly serve as the sect's base camp. Zhou Daocheng naturally cannot achieve this level, but using these waterproof stones to build a smaller underwater station should not be a problem. It's just that there are not many waterproof stones needed. In the vein of the Spirit Snake sect, there is only a first-grade middle-grade waterproof stone, a fist-sized piece that can form a hole 1 foot in diameter. If the water-repellent stone is simply refined using weapon refining methods, the diameter of the cavity can be slightly increased. Coupled with other ores and stacked together, 100 kilograms of waterproof stones should be able to create several caves at the bottom of the lake. As soon as he said it, Zhou Daocheng immediately explored the conditions at the bottom of the lake and selected a location suitable for building an underwater cave. The first is between the underground cave and the mountain. Zhou Daocheng plans to create a passage to connect them to facilitate communication with the valley. The line follows the direction of the spiritual veins, and the passages are built on both sides of the spiritual veins to create several caves. With its rich spiritual energy, it is a very good choice whether it is used for cultivation or to store precious resources. And after calculation, the distance between the underground cave and the mountain is almost 60 meters. 100 kilograms of waterproof stones are just enough to create a 60-meter passage, and add 6 sets of smaller training caves. Now that he had made plans, Zhou Daocheng also began to make preparations in all aspects. First, arrange for Lin Yuan to take some time to go to Baihei Fang City and purchase a large batch of first-grade medium-grade ore. The quality is not very high, the focus is on quantity and cheapness. Even in Zhou Daocheng's opinion, it would be fine to use first-level ore. After all, although it is located at the bottom of the lake, the ore does not need to withstand underwater pressure, because the waterproof stone can withstand all pressure. As for the effect of storing spiritual energy, Zhou Daocheng doesn't have to worry at all. Directly setting up the spirit gathering array will definitely have a better spiritual energy storage effect than the ore itself. The only thing that needs to be considered is to make it as strong as possible to prevent the building from being damaged by monsters in the water, so I chose the first-order mid-grade ore. Zhou Daocheng took advantage of the time to purchase the ore and also used simple refining methods to simply refine and process the waterproof stone. Although it is not as good as a professional weapon refiner, it is still barely enough and slightly increases the effect of the water-repellent stone. However, the later construction work was much more troublesome than expected. Not only is the construction process difficult, but the amount of work is very large and it will definitely not be completed in a short time. At this time, Zhou Daocheng realized deeply that he had too few manpower. There are only a dozen people in the huge white-scale lake and valley. Once the number of things that need to be done increases, there will be a shortage of manpower. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng had no choice but to put aside the idea of building an underwater cave in a short period of time and plan to take a long-term approach. By the way, this task was handed over to Qin Lai and asked him to be responsible for the subsequent construction work. The Zhou family in deep forest mountain. Zhou Chengyi's turbid eyes were filled with shock, and he stared at the jade bottle in front of him, unable to look away for a long time. Yunji, is this what Daocheng asked you to bring back? Zhao Yunji nodded and said, well, he asked me to bring it back to the family, saying it would be used to train the family's future generations. Looking at the light green crystal liquid, Zhou Chengyi was excited. The moment he opened the bottle, he smelled the rich aura and vitality. After looking at it for a long time, I realized what it was. This was actually spiritual honey brewed by an ant colony, and he was keenly aware that this was by no means an ordinary ant colony, but an ant colony brewing with a second-level quality. The purity and quality are far beyond what a first-order ant colony can compare to. How did this kid Daocheng get this thing? Zhou Chengyi muttered to himself in disbelief, with a hint of solemnity in his eyes. Although spiritual honey is only the first-level mid-grade, its value is self-evident. It is brewed from the juice of spiritual flowers, spiritual grass, and spiritual trees collected by spirit-swallowing ants. It is pure natural and pollution-free, and is expensive. It is suitable for the weaker children. Edible. After thinking for a moment, Zhou Chengyi looked at Zhao Yunji with a profound attitude and said with emotion, Yunji, please bring a message to Zhou Daocheng for me. Zhao Yunji was stunned for a moment, then understood immediately and took the initiative to smile. Okay, head of the family, I will thank him on behalf of the family for his selfless dedication. Oh no, I asked you to ask him and send more back if there is any left. Zhao Yunji. Looking at the kind smile of the head of the family, Zhao Yunji shook his head helplessly and lamented that the relationship within the Zhou family was indeed harmonious and that he actually had the heart to joke around. What surprised her even more was that the Zhou family suffered such a heavy blow, but the clan was still full of vitality and resumed rapid development. Perhaps this is the core strength of a family with a long heritage. After accepting the spiritual honey, Zhou Chengyi handed another letter to Zhao Yunji and said, this is the recent situation of the family. You should bring it to Daocheng and let him know about it. Okay, I will give it to him personally. Everything is developing in an orderly manner. 2 months after the soul-swallowing ant colony was subdued, the spirit snake sect contacted Zhou Daocheng again. Zhou Daocheng thought that after the leader of the spirit snake sect had the soul-swallowing ant colony, he would have a steady stream of spirit beasts, and hoped to speed up the cooperation process and form a business alliance, so he did not refuse. After all, both the Shanghai sect and the Zhou family urgently need such an opportunity. The meeting place was chosen at the water-repellent stone mine station. My friend, I haven't seen you for a long time. How are you doing recently? The leader of the spirit snake sect asked with a smile. Zhou Daocheng smiled faintly and said, thanks to the concern of the senior, with the benefits obtained from the devouring spirit ant cave, it is difficult to live a bad life. Ha ha ha, what you said is right. The leader of the spirit snake sect laughed heartily. Even the spirit snake sect, which has 2 foundation building masters, has greatly increased its foundation after obtaining this huge resource. Although 2 months is not enough for the ant colony to recover, it still makes the future full of hope. Senior, did you ask me to come here this time to discuss the next cooperation? However, after hearing this, the leader of the spirit snake sect gradually restrained the smile on his face. My friend, I came to talk to you this time because I want to tell you something. The cooperation proposed before may not be implemented. Zhou Daocheng frowned slightly and asked in confusion, why? Senior, once you subdue the soul-devouring ants and tame them into soul beasts, they will surely bring endless spiritual stones. The leader of the spirit snake sect shook his head and said, it's not that I don't want to, but there are other reasons. The Qingshan sect is likely to have a war. What? Zhou Daocheng's pupils suddenly shrank, and thousands of thoughts surged into his mind. The leader of the spirit snake sect sighed slightly and said, you may not know that the Qingshan sect has discovered a spiritual stone vein, but the location of the spiritual mine is relatively sensitive. At the junction of the Qingshan sect and the Lingding sect, the 2 forces did not get along, so the Purple Mansion War broke out. It is said that an elder at the peak of the 9th level of the foundation building died in the Qingshan sect, and the son of the leader of the Lingding sect also died in this battle, causing the situation to deteriorate further. Now both sides are unwilling to give up, and there is a high probability that a large-scale war will occur. The Qingshan sect has begun to recruit foundation building masters in the territory and hoard strategic resources such as elixirs, magic tools, talismans and formations. We in the Spirit Snake sect have also received the news. After a while, I will be recruited to the Qingshan sect, so we must not open a shop during this period, otherwise it will be very troublesome. As soon as the leader of the Qingshan sect finished talking, Zhou Daocheng frowned and said in his heart that it was troublesome. The situation is indeed worse than he thought. And if the situation is true, then they really can't open a shop under such circumstances. First of all, the Spirit Snake sect had already been recruited, and the leader of the Spirit Snake sect had no choice but to participate in the war. If the soul-devouring ants were exposed again, it might not be 2 foundation-building masters who would be recruited, but 3. As for Zhou Daocheng, the same is true. Once the formation is revealed now, it is very likely that it will be taken away by the Qingshan sect in the name of war. At that time, not only will he not be able to earn spiritual stones, but even Zhou Daocheng, the formation master, may have to participate in the war directly. Moreover, in the case of the shock of the cultivation world, the economy of the market will also shrink across the board. Such an environment is not suitable for opening shops. Many forces will not only not open shops, but may even shrink their forces and sell some unimportant shops to avoid being affected. As a small and medium-sized force, facing the war between the Purple Mansion sects, there is only one thing they can do, that is to find a place to hide and avoid being involved. Zhou Daocheng pondered for a moment and asked, "So, how do you plan to deal with it, senior?" The leader of the Spirit Snake sect shook his head and said, "The Spirit Snake sect is also a century-old sect. We can't escape this kind of call-up. We can only gather the sect's forces as much as possible. With the soul-devouring ants guarding the sect, I can leave with peace of mind." Zhou Daocheng nodded silently. The foundation-building masters of the old forces are all exposed, and it is difficult to avoid this kind of call-up. Relatively speaking, the situation of the Zhou family is much better. The foundation-building masters were killed, and the forces hid in the dark. They barely avoided the call-up of the Qingshan sect, which was a blessing in disguise. Suddenly, Zhou Daocheng's eyes lit up and he asked, "Senior, are you planning to shrink your forces? Then what will happen to this water-repellent stone station?" Seeing Zhou Daocheng's expression, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect raised his eyebrows and said, "This station is indeed a bit far away. We have considered evacuating it, but for the convenience of cooperation with you, we have not made a decision. Nowadays, the formation cooperation with the Mountain and Sea sect is a very important part of the Spirit Snake sect, especially the last time they cooperated to hunt the devouring spirit ant queen, and they witnessed the power of the first-class top-grade formation. Therefore, even if the water-repellent stone vein is not valuable and is very far away from the Spirit Snake sect, no one has proposed to cancel this station." Zhou Daocheng was also helpless in his heart. The existence of the Spirit Snake sect will eventually affect the development of the valley. So he said, "Senior, how about this? Our cooperation will continue, but I want to buy this water-repellent stone mine." "Buy the water-repellent stone mine?" The leader of the Spirit Snake sect had a thoughtful look in his eyes, and asked tentatively, "Young friend, do you want to build an underwater cave?" Zhou Daocheng said calmly, "I do have such a plan. Since it is a time of chaos, it is necessary to hide some things. Besides, the senior's residence is too close to me." Hearing this, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect also smiled and probably understood what Zhou Daocheng meant. On the one hand, the need for the water-repellent stone mine is needed, and on the other hand, the hope that the Spirit Snake sect's residents will move away is another. The more powerful the force, the stronger the sense of territory. Naturally, they do not want other forces to occupy their own residence. This is not a friendly relationship, but an aggressive intention. So the leader of the Spirit Snake sect thought for a while and took the initiative to say, "It was my negligence. In this case, how about exchanging a set of first-grade top-grade formations for this mineral vein?" Zhou Daocheng frowned. If it was just an ordinary first-grade top-grade formation, it would be no problem to exchange this water-repellent stone mine, but if it was a fusion formation like the Golden Spear 100 Vine formation, Zhou Daocheng would need to think about it. After all, even he himself could not gather the formation materials required for the second set of Golden Spear 100 Vine formation. So after thinking about it, Zhou Daocheng said, Okay, but the formation materials need to be provided by the senior. Is it the formation you used last time? Yes. What materials do you need? 31st grade top grade yellow thorn vines. Although only 20 yellow thorn vines are needed, Zhou Daocheng still asked for 30 for safety reasons to prevent damage during the process of refining the formation plate. At the same time, it is also to prevent the leader of the spirit snake sect from knowing the specific materials required for the formation. Although the two sides are currently close, we must be on guard. The leader of the spirit snake sect hesitated for a moment, but still agreed, I will provide the materials. Can the formation be completed within 2 months? Yes, 2 months. This is the leader of the spirit snake sect preparing for the next war. Once involved in the battle between the two major Purple Mansion forces, one may be crushed to pieces if he is not careful. Even a strong man like the spirit snake sect, who has a second-level spirit beast, is not sure of protecting himself, but if there is a formation to protect him, the survival rate will be greatly improved. Okay, when the formation plate is made, just give it to Han Yi. He will leave directly with the formation plate, and then the water-repellent stone mine will belong to you. Zhou Daocheng nodded in agreement. This business can only make money and not lose money, so he naturally would not refuse. And with sufficient water-repellent stones, his underwater cave plan can be implemented smoothly, and a safe cave can be built in troubled times. Return to Bailin Lake at night. Zhou Daocheng was about to practice, but found that Zhao Yunji had returned and handed him a letter. The head of the family asked me to bring it to you. He said that he needed to explain the recent situation of the family to you. Zhou Daocheng was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Tell me about the recent situation of the family. The meaning is very obvious. It seems that his grandfather is planning to force the issue and gradually hand over the family to the younger generations. Whether they are willing or not, they must start to take on many things. After opening the envelope and recording some recent family situations, Zhou Daocheng frowned after carefully checking it. First, it is about the second-level magic weapon, the giant ridge bow. The giant ridge bow has been successfully manufactured, and its power is comparable to that of a half-step foundation building. It is enough to become the Zhou family's family protection magic weapon and maintain the safety of the family. In addition, the fourth brother Zhou Daoqi has further improved his weapon refining skills and has touched the threshold of a second-level weapon refiner, and can refine second-level arrows. This allows the giant ridge bow to be used unscrupulously without worrying about the bow and arrows being used up. This is considered a happy event. The second thing is about the eldest brother Zhou Daobai, who has now officially gone into seclusion. When his strength reaches the peak of the 9th level of Qi refining, he will take the foundation building pill to break through. With his second spiritual root talent, the probability of a successful breakthrough is very high, but this matter is related to the survival of the family after all, so the entire Zhou family is in a tense atmosphere. In this regard, Zhou Daocheng is not very worried. He knows the strength of his eldest brother Zhou Daobai. His aura is heavy and solid. Obviously, he has worked hard, and a successful breakthrough should not be a problem. This is the third piece of information, which made Zhou Daocheng frown. This is also the only bad news. Near Shenline Mountain, a second-level monster beast is suspected to have appeared. It seems to be attracted by the breath of the second-level spiritual vein and has been wandering around for a long time. This is definitely not a good phenomenon, which greatly affects the safety of the Zhou family in Shenline Mountain. Now, all the immortal cultivators and mortals of the Zhou family are all in Shenline Mountain, but the strongest combat power is only 2 9th-level Qi refining masters, and Zhou Daobai is still in seclusion. Once the second-level monster beast comes to the door, the result will inevitably be a catastrophe. Zhou Daocheng has a lot of thoughts in his mind. He thought about the means in his hands now, but still couldn't think of a way to solve this matter. The power of the first-level superior formation, especially the Golden Spear 100 Vine formation and the Purple Qi Green Spirit Sword formation, can reach the peak of the 9th level of Qi refining, and even compare to the half-step foundation building. However, it is still very difficult to really resist the second-level monster beast. But if it is combined with the second-level magic weapon Soul Suppressing Bell, Blue Moon Bracelet, and Giant Ridge Bow, there may be a chance to fight a second-level monster beast. Unfortunately, relying on the head of the family Zhou Chengyi, a 9th-level Qi refining strongman, it is difficult to control the first-level top-grade formation and multiple second-level magic weapons at the same time, and even to pull the giant mountain bow. The gap in hard power makes Zhou Daocheng feel that he has the will but not the strength. The current Zhou family is too weak, So weak that even if they have a second-level magic weapon as a trump card, no one can use it. Since the direct confrontation is not favorable, there are only two ways to deal with it. Either wait for the eldest brother Zhou Daobai to successfully break through the foundation building, and all problems will be solved. Or migrate the clan members and disperse the Zhou family's roots to two places. Even if Shenline Mountain encounters a crisis, it will not be exterminated. Zhou Daocheng sighed silently and muttered to himself. The successive blows have worn out the Zhou family's nearly 100 years of foundation. We must leave a way out for the family. The construction of the underwater cave should also speed up the process. What is an underwater cave? Zhao Yunji asked curiously. Zhou Daocheng did not hide anything and roughly told her about the water-repellent stone veins and his plan to build an underwater cave. Zhao Yunji was immediately surprised. What a big deal. This kind of construction should be a lot of work, right? It's really not small. Even if it's a small-scale construction, Qinlai has been busy for several days and barely completed more than half of it. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but sigh that the construction of an underwater cave was far from as simple as he imagined. Zhao Yunji thought and asked, Brother Qinlai doesn't have water spirit roots. You let him stay in the water every day. Isn't this not good? This. Also, do you have a special design drawing? If it is built according to the drawing, it should be easier. Does this thing need a drawing? You won't just give Brother Qinlai a pile of stones and let him build an underwater cave, right? I also give encouragement and trust. Zhou Daocheng's voice became smaller and smaller, and he became less and less confident. According to his thinking, who needs a drawing to build a cave? But on second thought, this is not just digging a cave in the cave, but actually building an underwater building, which requires a lot of technology. Ahem, can you draw a blueprint? Zhao Yunji helplessly held his forehead and said, I can barely do it. I'll be responsible for the construction of the underwater cave. At least it's better than building it with bare hands. Okay, it doesn't need to be built too gorgeously, as long as it is hidden enough and the living area is as large as possible. No problem, you let Qinlai stop the work first, and arrange people to build it after I design the blueprint. Zhou Daocheng agreed to all of Zhao Yunji's opinions and handed professional matters to professionals. And he himself didn't have anything to do, so he returned to his normal practice life. While improving his own strength, he also improved his formation technology. Feeling the Wu Earth magic power running in his body, he continuously compressed the rich spiritual energy until it was condensed enough and then settled in his body. After practicing for a few days, his strength did not improve much. He had almost used up all the earth-attributed treasures he had obtained before, so his practice speed had slowed down a lot. It seems that I need to buy some elixirs or earth-attributed treasures. The practice speed of Wu Tu Kun Yu Gong is still too slow after all. Zhou Daocheng muttered to himself, then ended his practice and took out a spell scroll. He planned to practice a spell to improve his combat power. This was the first-class spell found in the small family of Shenline Mountain, Quicksand Spell. It can turn the soil in a nearby area into quicksand, reducing the enemy's movement speed. The spells of the Qi refining stage are relatively weak. After all, the Qi refining stage cannot release spiritual energy, so naturally it cannot cast powerful spells. Only when you reach the foundation building stage can you be considered a real spell. However, the spells that can generally reach the first level upper grade are also quite powerful. Most of them are transformed from second level spells and have considerable power. For example, the spell, Flame Breaking Knife, used by the Qi family's 9th level Qi refining cultivator before was very powerful. Zhou Daocheng carefully checked and found that Quicksand Spell was also a very exquisite spell, which used the characteristics of the earth-attributed spiritual energy to create strong gravity and suction, thereby achieving the effect of control and containment. Coincidentally, Zhou Daocheng's main attribute was earth-attributed, and the cultivation method was still heavy and long, which was extremely suitable for this kind of spell. It took a day for Zhou Daocheng to learn it easily. As the spiritual power emerged under his feet, it slowly spread along the ground and soon formed an area completely formed by quicksand. Quicksand flows in one direction, seemingly extremely slowly, but it contains extremely powerful power. Anyone who steps into it will have difficulty. Moreover, with Zhou Daocheng's spiritual energy strength, any cultivator below the 8th level of Qi refining who enters will be almost completely unable to move. Even if it is the 9th level of Qi refining, there is a high probability that it will be greatly restrained and blocked. The characteristics of this spell seem to be very similar to a certain set of formations. After searching for a long time, Zhou Daocheng finally found a set of first-level medium-quality yellow sand formation in the formation inheritance. The effect of this formation is somewhat different from the quicksand technique. It can only form a large amount of yellow sand in the formation, thereby blocking the line of sight and hiding itself while attacking the enemy. But in fact, the yellow sand formation is not strong. Whether it is defense or attack ability, it can only be regarded as mediocre, but the effect of concealing the whereabouts is quite good. Speaking of which, among the second-level formations, this is also a relatively useless formation. However, Zhou Daocheng noticed the unusualness of it at a glance. Qi refining cultivators cannot release spiritual energy, but the formation can directly form an area full of yellow sand. Zhou Daocheng only needs to control it. Moreover, after a simple search, Zhou Daocheng found another formation that can perfectly match the yellow sand formation, the return flow formation. This is a first-level superior formation, which mainly controls the flow of water and can form strong pressure and swallowing power, which is very similar to the effect of the quicksand technique. Zhou Daocheng was completely attracted by these two sets of formations. He had never tried to merge these two formations with completely different functions and qualities before. But now, the two are indeed very compatible, and they are also based on momentum, and have a strong restraining effect. Once they can be merged together, combined with the first-level top-grade spell, Quicksand Spell, the power will definitely be very considerable. In the next few days, Zhou Daocheng was completely immersed in the fusion of the formation. Having had the experience of merging two sets of first-level top-grade formations before, it is not particularly difficult to merge the first-level medium-grade yellow sand formation and the first-level top-grade return flow formation. It took nearly 5 days to successfully merge and create a new formation diagram, quicksand formation. The quality reached the first-level top-grade, and the power was stronger than the ordinary first-level top-grade formation, but it was probably not as good as the Golden Spear 100 Vine formation and Purple Air Green Spirit Sword formation. But it was only slightly insufficient in attack ability. The quicksand formation was mainly based on restraint and control, and its power was also not to be underestimated. The fusion of the yellow sand formation and the mysterious water formation, because both of these formations have the effect of controlling the enemy, the two complement each other. The quicksand swamp formed by the yellow sand and the mysterious water has a powerful swallowing effect, and it is endless, and the control effect is greatly improved. If combined with the quicksand technique, the effects of the two will be superimposed on each other, making the strength of the formation even stronger. Even if a peak powerhouse at the 9th level of Qi refining enters it, it will inevitably be difficult to move, even to the center of the formation. With the creation of this set of first-level superior formations, Zhou Daocheng also has a deeper plan for his own combat methods. Quicksand formation guards the body, forming an insurmountable quicksand around itself, and anyone who steps into it will be deeply trapped. Golden Spear 100 Vine formation has both offensive and defensive capabilities. While restraining the enemy, it also has considerable offensive and defensive capabilities, and is suitable for large-scale battles. Bai Ling Sword formation focuses on attacking, as the most powerful killing method, to fight the enemy. The three complement each other, integrating attack, control and defense. Once fully deployed, Zhou Daocheng's strength will reach a terrifying level. Zhou Daocheng was also secretly shocked. If he let himself go all out, perhaps even the strong man who had just broken through to the foundation building stage would find it difficult to resist. But now, the most urgent task is to buy the materials for the formation and refine the quicksand formation array plate first. Calculating the time, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect should also send the yellow thorn vine over. Maybe I can buy some other formation materials by the way. Zhou Daocheng thought silently. He was too lazy to go to Baihifang market to buy it. It would be better to find the leader of the Spirit Snake sect to buy it. The Black Water Swamp where the Spirit Snake sect is located is a resource-rich area with a large number of natural treasures, so the Spirit Snake sect is also relatively wealthy and has many materials needed for the formation. And the leader of the Spirit Snake sect did not disappoint him. In the early morning of the next day, he came in person and sent 31st grade top-grade yellow thorn vines. My friend, I will wait in the water-repellent stone mine. After the array is refined, I will go directly to Qingshan sect. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect said. No problem. By the way, senior, I need to buy some materials. I wonder if you have any here. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect raised his eyebrows and couldn't help asking, do you think of me as a caravan delivering goods to you? Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, since we have cooperated happily before, we naturally have to deepen our cooperative relationship. Moreover, the seniors sect has a lot of resources that cannot be used, and I just need all kinds of resources. Trading with each other is naturally the best of both worlds. Add a few sets of arrays every year, and I will give you materials in proportion, how about it? The leader of the Spirit Snake sect said shrewdly. After thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, the current cooperation is 3 sets of formations a year, and the number cannot be increased. However, I can directly purchase materials with spirit stones. Then add another cooperation, providing a set of first-grade superior formations every year, and ask you to provide it. Zhou Daocheng frowned. Refining formations would consume a lot of his own time, thus affecting the speed of cultivation, which was definitely not what he wanted. After thinking for a long time, he said, 1 set of first-grade superior formations in 3 years, using Earth attribute cultivation resources, or exchanging formation materials. Can't have more. 1 set every 2 years is fine. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect frowned. I refine the formations myself, and I won't seek help from the sect. This will waste a lot of my time. 1 set in 3 years is already the limit. That's fine. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect did not force it, but only made another request. But if the formation is damaged, you need to be responsible for repairing it. Zhou Daocheng thought about it and nodded in agreement. According to the previous situation, the Spirit Snake sect traded for a total of 5 formations, but they were all damaged in the battle. This is only a first-level medium-grade formation, so it is not too painful if it is damaged. But if it is a first-level high-grade formation, it will be a troublesome thing if it cannot be repaired after accidental damage. After the 2 parties reached an agreement, they also traded what they needed. Zhou Daocheng used more than 1,300 spirit stones to buy the main materials needed for the quicksand formation. In addition, he spent 1,000 spirit stones to buy all the gold and iron stones on the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. They were all refined concentrates, about 40 kilograms. These quantities can refine about 10 sets of first-level medium-grade golden vine formation or splitting gold formation. After completing the transaction, Zhou Daocheng quickly returned to the underground cave and began to refine the golden spear 100 vine formation. However, the process was not very smooth, and some minor accidents occurred. Because of a small mistake, the formation was disordered and 5 first-level high-grade yellow thorn vines were destroyed, which made Zhou Daocheng feel heartbroken. However, Zhou Daocheng made timely adjustments and finally successfully refined the formation, which was considered a near miss. After more than half a month, the formation was handed over to the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng took over the Bishui stone mine as promised. Then, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect summoned a huge black water spirit snake from the spirit beast bag and walked towards the Qingshan sect. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but sigh. If the Zhou family hadn't suffered a disaster, the strong foundation builder had passed away, and the entire family had to migrate, maybe the old patriarch would have been recruited by the Qingshan sect. From this perspective, the Zhou family may be lucky. At least there is no need to go into this muddy water like the leader of the Spirit Snake sect and face the troubled times that may come. The Zhou family, on the other hand, can hide completely in the dark, develop silently, and recuperate. Moreover, with the recruitment of the Qingshan sect, the Ma family and the Chen family will most likely be busy taking care of themselves and will not have the energy to pursue and intercept the Zhou family, which can also let the Zhou family breathe a sigh of relief. Zhou Daocheng can also take this opportunity to usher in a relatively stable period of cultivation or development. However, before officially entering cultivation, Zhou Daocheng still made arrangements for everyone in the valley and Balan Lake. Zhao Yunji and Qin Lai are mainly responsible for the construction of the underwater cave. This is a very important task now and is related to the future of the family. At the same time, Qin Lai also had to take care of refining some daily elixirs and guarding the valley. The 7th-level Qi refining monks, led by Huang Zhou, are still responsible for the planting and breeding industry in the valley, and assist Qin Lai in garrisoning the valley. Finally, Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan will make some changes in their work, and Zhou Daocheng also specially found 2 people to talk to. In the valley, in a relatively spacious stone room, 3 people sat facing each other. Sir, you called us over. Do you have other arrangements? Meng Yushan asked proactively. Zhou Daocheng calmly picked up the teapot on the stone table and made a pot of tea. He said, all the Lingwo soil has been moved back, and Lin Yuan's work is over. The waterproof stone mine is now ours, and there is no need for you in Lingxi, Lao Meng. Zong continues to contact you, and now you are all idle. That's right. Most of the time I'm practicing or taking that girl Lin Chengxi out to hunt monsters. Zhou Daocheng nodded and arranged. Now that the Spirit Snake Sect station has been evacuated, we can develop with confidence. I plan to standardize your hunting team. Thoughts appeared in Meng Yushen's eyes, and he asked, regulate the hunting team. Are you taking Huang Zhou and others to continue to form the original hunting team? No, it's to form a new team. Reform. Lin Yuan and Meng Yushen looked at each other with confusion in their eyes, as if they didn't quite understand what Zhou Daocheng meant. Zhou Daocheng analyzed. The Qingshan sect and the Lingding sect are about to go to war, and the news will inevitably spread to the entire Qingshan sect area. There will be a period of turmoil next. There must be many small forces or scattered cultivators who have been affected by the war and will choose to go to the more stable east area. And our location is in the easternmost part of the entire Qingshan sect area, close to the eastern Great Wilderness. The terrain is vast and complex, and there are many opportunities. There will definitely be an influx of non-dispersed cultivators. This will be the best opportunity for us to develop. You two just take this opportunity to form a hunting team each to expand the power of Shanhaizong. After hearing what Zhou Daocheng said, the two of them didn't pay too much attention at first, but as they listened, their eyes finally flickered. Indeed, every time there is a war, it is a time for a major reshuffle. Many people are involved in the war and suffer unspeakably, while others take advantage of this opportunity to develop rapidly. The Shanhai sect, which is out of everyone's sight, unaffected by the turmoil, and has a unique geographical location, has unique conditions. War will inevitably destroy many small forces and small families that are not strong, which will greatly increase the number of casual cultivators. Meng Yushen and Lin Yuan, who started out as casual cultivator hunting teams, must be able to thrive in such an environment. What's more, with the support of Zhou Daocheng, there is no shortage of formations and elixirs, and their development momentum will inevitably be stronger. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that this matter was promising. Sir, then we will leave the valley tomorrow, find loose cultivators again, and form a hunting team. Lin Yuan asked. Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, what's the use of you going out tomorrow? The war hasn't started yet. Lin Yuan spread his hands and said helplessly, then what are we going to do? Stay in the valley to practice. On the side, Meng Yushen's mind was spinning faster and he took the initiative. Since there is a possibility of unrest, we should make some preparations in advance. Should we go to Baihifeng City? Zhou Daocheng cast an approving look. That's right. You two should go to Baihifeng City first. While prices haven't changed much yet, you can stock up on a batch of needed cultivation resources. Afterwards, Zhou Daocheng handed over the prepared list to the two of them, which contained a large amount of needed resources. For example, Zhou Daocheng needs the formation materials, earth attribute cultivation resources, etc. Qinlai needs the alchemy materials, etc. The other people in the valley need the cultivation resources, etc. In addition, a large part of them are various spiritual flowers and spiritual grass resources, which are the materials required for the medicated bath formula. After many studies on the 3 medicated bath formulas obtained from the small family in Shenline Mountain, Zhou Daocheng still felt that they were extraordinary and it was very necessary to give them a try. Therefore, I also plan to collect a batch of materials. Meng Yushen looked at the densely packed materials and couldn't help but feel a headache. He couldn't help asking, young master, these materials are not cheap. Zhou Daocheng threw a storage bag over without hesitation. Meng Yushen opened it and was immediately shocked by the huge number of spirit stones in it. He looked at Zhou Daocheng in disbelief. Young master, are you going to kill people and rob? Zhou Daocheng's face turned black and he said coldly, what do you think? There were a total of 6,000 low-grade spirit stones in the storage bag, which was almost most of the spirit stones on Zhou Daocheng's body. In the Zhao family, he cheated Zhao Chengquan of 5,000 spirit stones, handed over 3,000 to the family, and kept 2,000 for himself. In the treasure house of the small family in Shenline Mountain, he obtained a total of 6,000 low-grade spirit stones, plus 20 medium-grade spirit stones, with a total value of 8,000 spirit stones. The two added up, that is nearly 10,000 spirit stones. However, it cost more than 2,000 spirit stones to buy materials from the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. Zhou Daocheng was reluctant to use 20 medium-grade spirit stones. So apart from that, there were only 6,000 spirit stones left, all of which were given to the two to buy resources. You will rush to Baihei Market tomorrow morning. When you come back, I will have other arrangements. Meng Yushin and the two nodded in agreement. Zhou Daocheng also plans to further help them improve their strength after they return to the valley, and equip them with corresponding formations to make them stronger. It can make them more competitive in casual cultivation. At the same time, spiritual magic is also a good thing. Although Zhou Daocheng's mental power is not weak, only a few people can control it. However, he only needs to control a few people such as Meng Yushin and Lin Yuan, and then let them control the others. With the help of the spiritual mystical method, the team of casual cultivators they formed will be more cohesive and can avoid many unexpected situations. With silent plans in his mind, Zhou Daocheng returned to the underground cave. The materials for the quicksand formation were complete, and he took advantage of this period of time to refine this formation that was completely suitable for his own abilities. Since it was the first time to arrange it, I had to be extra careful and spend a lot of energy and effort. But there were still some hiccups in the process. It wasn't until more than half of the time that I discovered that there was a small error in the formation pattern. It should have been an error in the previous derivation of the formation, which led to confusion in the details. As a last resort, Zhou Daocheng had to terminate the arrangement. I rededuced the pattern again, and after spending a lot of time, I made sure everything was correct before starting again. On the second try, the process went much smoother. Many of the originally chaotic formation patterns were reorganized, and the refining speed of the formation disk was also much faster. It took almost 10 days to successfully refine the first-order high-grade quicksand formation array disk. I came outside the valley and found an area to try. The radius of the area covered by the quicksand array reaches 10 feet, forming a terrifying vortex on the ground. The yellow sand and flowing water merge with each other, creating a strong sense of devouring, like a swamp that is constantly devouring, eroding away all life that enters it. The terrifying effect was that even if Zhou Daocheng walked into it, it would be difficult for him to resist, and he could only be swallowed up by the unstoppable force of the quicksand. What a terrible effect! Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but sigh. Although it is not as shocking as the golden J100 vine formation, the effect it can produce is not weak at all. Moreover, this is only the effect of the formation itself. As Zhou Daocheng performed the quicksand technique, it instantly covered the quicksand formation, and the two effects merged into one. Because there is already quicksand in the formation, when Zhou Daocheng casts the spell, he needs to consume less mana and only needs to control the quicksand. Moreover, because he has control over both spells and formations, he has stronger control over the quicksand on the ground. It can speed up or slow down the rotation speed of the quicksand to a certain extent, or strengthen the input of spiritual energy to give the quicksand a stronger squeezing force. Regardless, the superimposition of the two creates a more powerful effect. Zhou Daocheng tried it, but even if it was the peak of the first-order high grade, and it was still a strength-based iron-backed bear, it would be difficult to move once it fell into the quicksand. This powerful effect made Zhou Daocheng very satisfied, and it was enough to keep most enemies away. In this way, you can also use Golden J Beidang formation and Bai Ling sword formation with full strength, maintain a certain distance to fight, and always control the rhythm of the battle in your own hands. When they returned to the valley, Lin Yuan and others from Mengyu Mountain had already returned. The two were not weak in strength and did not encounter any accidents along the way, so they returned to the valley a few days early. Sir, I have bought everything. Please check it out. Meng Yushin handed over 2 storage bags. All the spiritual stones had been used up. They contained various cultivation resources and materials, filled with rich spiritual energy. Zhou Daocheng classified them simply. The daily cultivation resources, such as spiritual valleys, were all stored in caves in the valley. All the materials for alchemy and underwater cave cultivation were handed over to Qin Lai. The training resources needed by individuals were also uniformly distributed. Zhou Daocheng took all the remaining formation materials, earth attribute training resources, medicinal bath materials, etc. back to the underground cave. The next task for Meng Yushin and Lin Yuan is to learn the spiritual magic. Most of the casual cultivators have complicated identities and deep thoughts, and they may even be hiding evil cultivators. The danger of forming a hunting team at will is not low. Moreover, it is not easy to manage without any restrictions at all. This will have a certain impact on both the expansion of the hunting team and the expansion of the Shanghai sect's power. The spiritual mysticism can solve this problem to a great extent. With the strength of Meng Yushin and Lin Yuan, they can control 5 to 6 mid to late stage qi refining monks, which is enough to form a hunting team. After a period of testing and all conditions are met, you can be admitted to the Shanghai sect. It's just that Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan's talents are not very high. They need a long time to practice the exquisite magic techniques that Zhou Daocheng learned easily. Zhou Daocheng did not put too much pressure on them, allowing them to practice while learning the spiritual secrets. At the same time, it also provides them with a lot of spiritual honey to help them improve their strength as much as possible, and it is best to reach the 9th level of qi refining. Zhou Daocheng himself returned to the island and began to study 3 medicinal bath formulas. Among them, the ingredients for the Qingyang medicinal bath formula and the Huajuian medicinal bath formula are complete, enough to make several medicinal packages. Among the ingredients for the Jingling medicinal bath formula that has reached the 2nd level of quality, there are still 3 overall ingredients missing: Shenkang flower, Moi pear steam, and Qiang turtle blood. These materials are valuable and rare, and Zhou Daocheng has never even heard of them. It is difficult to gather them in a short time. Therefore, he had to focus on the 1st level medium and high-quality medicinal bath formulas. According to the steps in the formula, each material is treated uniquely to stimulate the juice and medicinal liquid of the material to ensure that its effect is fully stimulated. After burning with a big fire, baking in the scorching sun, and finally boiling, it took 7 days to barely make the 1st level medium quality Qingyang medicinal bath medicine bag. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng was also making the 1st level high quality Huo Zuian medicinal bath formula, which consumed higher quality materials, longer baking and boiling time, and more complicated processes. It took a full 18 days to successfully make it. Although Zhou Daocheng did not know how to make pills and did not understand the characteristics of various spiritual plants, he still found that the final medicine bag had a strange fragrance and was extremely special. In order to try the effect of the medicine bag, Zhou Daocheng took the lead in making a large bathtub for himself and planned to try it himself. He held the Qingyang medicinal bath medicine bag in his left hand and the Huajuian medicinal bath medicine bag in his right hand. Zhou Daocheng hesitated, thinking about which one to try, and made a decision after a long time. The quality of the 1st level medium quality Qingyang medicinal bath was too low after all, so Zhou Daocheng finally chose the Fire Cloud medicinal bath. Dilute the spiritual spring liquid, boil it and pour it into the huge wooden barrel. The heat and spiritual energy rise in the air, making the surroundings shrouded in mist. As the medicine bag slowly melted, more concentrated spiritual energy was released, accompanied by bursts of medicinal fragrance into the nasal cavity. At the same time, the liquid in the wooden barrel also turned orange-red, like the setting sun in the sky. No wonder it was called Fire Cloud. Zhou Daocheng took off his coat without hesitation and got in. Then the next moment, his face changed drastically. An extremely burning touch wrapped around the whole body, like a raging fire burning the body. The hot flames drilled into the pores in an instant, wandering in the body, violently impacting Zhou Daocheng's nerves. In just a few seconds, every part of the skin was burning hot. Moreover, this was Zhou Daocheng practicing the Wutu Kun Yu Gong, and his physique was greatly warmed up, but he still couldn't resist this heat. If an ordinary person enters it, he will probably scream in pain in a second. At this moment, the only thought in Zhou Daocheng's mind is there something wrong with the medicine bag? The next moment, he immediately mobilized the magic power in his body and wrapped it on the surface of his body to resist the strong burning sensation brought by the medicine. Zhou Daocheng quickly climbed out of the wooden barrel to relieve the heat on the surface of his body. But just a few seconds later, he unexpectedly felt that there were strange changes on the surface of his body. Although the burning sensation did not subside immediately, it was gradually weakening. The strong medicine seemed to be absorbed by the body and completely penetrated into the skin, blood and internal organs. An indescribable sense of comfort came up, making people moan, and they felt that the medicine penetrated the body and massaged every part of the skin. When the burning sensation completely disappeared, the whole body was indescribably transparent. This is not just a feeling, but a real change to the body. Zhou Daocheng immediately checked his body, but unexpectedly found that the heat rising from the surface of his body at this time was actually a grayish color, and even had a fishy smell. Is this the turbid air in the body? Zhou Daocheng said in surprise, with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. The so-called turbid air is actually a general term, including the poison formed by taking elixirs, the coldness blocked in the body by long-term hard work, and the stagnation left after recovery from injuries. These are all very inconspicuous garbage in the body. Although they will not have a direct impact on the body, if they cannot be eliminated for a long time, they may also cause some damage. And it is difficult to expel turbid air from the body with ordinary means. However, Zhou Daocheng can clearly feel that as the power of Huo Xiaoyun penetrates into the body, part of the turbid air is completely eroded, and the body seems to have reached a deep level of cleansing. This feeling of comfort and refreshment cannot be expressed in words, but can only be understood. Silently feeling the changes in the body and experiencing the comfortable feeling, until the burning sensation completely disappeared, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but shudder. When he opened his eyes again, Zhou Daocheng immediately realized that the value of this medicinal bath was absolutely very high, and ridiculously high. Deep cleaning of the body can not only bring great comfort, but also regulate the body to a certain extent, especially for cultivators whose strength has not been improved for a long time. It is very likely to make further progress. The effect of this medicinal bath is no weaker than some precious elixirs. And compared with elixirs, medicinal baths do not cause any harm to the human body, there is no elixir poison, and the method is more gentle. Looking at the orange-red bath in front of him, Zhou Daocheng's eyes have completely changed, and he no longer underestimates it. Although the burning sensation is indeed terrible, the effect brought about by it is also really amazing. Moreover, Zhou Daocheng thought about it carefully and probably understood why there was such a strong burning sensation. The formula did not clearly state how much water should be used to brew a medicine bag, and Zhou Daocheng did not care too much. But now it seems that too little water was used, resulting in too strong a medicinal power, which almost burned the skin, otherwise the burning sensation should not be so strong. After figuring out the problem, Zhou Daocheng quickly made a second wooden barrel, then took out 1/5 of the bath water, and brewed it again. In this way, the bath water was obviously much clearer, and the original orange-red liquid turned orange-yellow, and it was clearer and more lustrous. Zhou Daocheng stretched out his hand to try it, and found that there was still a considerable burning sensation, but it was within the tolerance range of the skin. Entering the bucket again, the body was completely immersed in the bath water. This time, not only did he not feel uncomfortable, but the slight burning sensation made the body very comfortable, and the stimulated body skin continued to absorb the medicinal power. The feeling of comfort instantly filled the whole body, and wisps of gray turbid air, accompanied by the heat on the surface of the body, slowly rose into the air. The flow of blood and spiritual energy in the body also became smoother, as if there was no obstruction. After lying for 2 hours, the bath water always remained hot, constantly cleaning the turbid air and filth in the body, bringing a strong sense of comfort, and even the spirit was completely relaxed. Zhou Daocheng didn't get up until the medicine was completely absorbed, the orange-red bath water became transparent, and the burning sensation gradually disappeared. Putting on a purple robe, Zhou Daocheng stretched lazily, feeling comfortable all over, an indescribable sense of relaxation. Feeling the changes in his body carefully, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but take a breath. There are really many changes in his body. The first and most obvious thing is cleansing. The fire cloud medicinal bath is like a raging fire, completely burning away impurities. The benefits of cleansing are the unobstructed breath, meridians, spiritual energy, and even spirit. This has improved Zhou Daocheng's strength, which has not improved for a long time, and successfully reached the middle stage of the 8th level of qi refining. At the same time, the repetitive burning sensation continues to burn the skin, and then uses the rich medicinal power to recover. After experiencing this hundreds of times, the skin has become tougher. What a good thing. This is only the first grade upper grade fire cloud. If the materials for the second grade lower grade pure spirit medicinal bath are gathered, how strong will the effect be? Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but sigh, knowing that he had picked up a treasure. This kind of medicinal bath can be used in many situations. To cultivate offspring, you can dilute it more to consolidate the foundation. Older tribesmen can also use it to regulate their bodies. Some hidden diseases, as long as they are not too serious, can also have a certain recovery effect. The hunting team, or Meng Yushan and others, must have a lot of hidden injuries in their bodies due to years of fighting, which seriously affects their foundation. They can also be treated by taking a medicinal bath, and maybe they can go further and reach a better state. You know, Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan have been stuck at the peak of the 8th level of qi refining for a long time, and what they lack is an opportunity. It just so happens that there is still a lot of bath soup left, so don't waste it. Zhou Daocheng muttered to himself. Zhou Daocheng muttered to himself.